Next up on the agenda for presentations, we have Marvin Gardens, and a couple weeks ago, Tom had called me, just reached out to me, just FYI, about where they were at, and because we hadn't heard much from them, we were getting a lot of inquiries from neighbors, Weddington Chase, and what was going on. So I think the invite for them to come, I think they've done some work on this. We'll learn a little bit more, but this is again another presentation, hopefully at about 30,000 feet level, and where they're at on things, and maybe quell some of the rumors that are out there, if there are any and stuff. But I'm glad you're here, so welcome, and if you want to stand or.
I'll get up here so we can see. I'm Tom Callan with Publix, and I'm a development manager. I'm the quarterback of the team, helping to coordinate all the players that we've got that will be involved. And behind the scenes, this is something every project, nothing unique to Marvin, but behind the scenes we worked for several months to get our direction. And we have that now. It's been a while. We haven't been here for a number of months, but we have that direction now, and we're ready to go nonstop forward through the approval processes that are left to get permits and go into construction. We have a couple new things that have happened inside of Publix. The store that we anticipate building has been improved since we received our site plan approval. We have a new prototype. It's a little bit more exciting. It's different. It's coming to age, I guess you could say. A little more excitement. And I think, in fact, I'm pretty sure everybody in Marvin's going to like it. We don't have plans yet to share, and the reason we don't, because the switch to this new prototype just occurred recently, and we're getting it, put to site plans and getting it put to drawings and making sure that our consulting team is on board. I have with me tonight a couple of people. I think everybody knows Vanessa. Vanessa is here tonight. Vanessa's role's changed a little bit, and I wanted everybody to understand that what we need from Vanessa is to get the residential component of this project solidified. We've got a builder, Saucy Burbank, that does indeed want to continue as a partner out there and build some 55 and over housing. But we don't have a final deal, we don't have a purchase agreement done. We've got a lot of loose parts there. And that's because of the process and the length of time that the process has gone so far. We're at a point now, like I said, we're moving non-stop forward. So we need to get Saucy Burbank to solidify their plans at this point via a purchase agreement. And that's something that Vanessa is going to spearhead for us. She's also available to show the several years of history that she has accumulated. And she's going to be sharing that with my fee developer, Asa Harris, who is here tonight, as well as Carla Kassenbaum. The Harris team is going to actually be developing. And part of the developing process is to get permitted and coordinate, architect, engineer, and actually get coordinate general contractor, build the project, and close it out at the end. And it's going to be a couple of years from here all the way through that process. That's the length of time it's going to take at this point. We don't have an exact date, and we'll share one as soon as we know, but the timeline is just now being developed internally. But some exciting things, and wanted Asa to just I wanted to introduce Asa. Everybody knows he'll be in town quite a bit, and he'll be going through the approval process with those in the village that are participants in that. And I wanted Asa to come up, just say a couple words, tell you a little bit about his background, his team that he's got. He has built several locations for Publix. He in fact developed the first Publix in the state of Virginia, which opened up a little over a year ago. And he's done a lot of Florida projects, North Carolina projects. So he is very expert at what he does. He is out of Raleigh, so he's very close by. And it's a good fit for having Asa and his team as a developer. So, Asa, if you would, I'll let you come up and,
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Tom.
yeah.
And we won't take too much of your time. I know everybody's very busy, and a very brief update. And, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. We're very excited about this project. And at this point, we are working very aggressively in our architecture and engineering design on the commercial component of Marvin Gardens. And we anticipate earlier this week, we met with staff and had a very productive discussion about the process, making sure we understood it clearly and it goes smoothly. We are planning to submit and go in front of the design review board as early as October, is our hope. And if everything goes well, hopefully be back here in front of you all in November. So that's our hope. We are moving as quickly as we can. It is, as Tom mentioned, it's a lengthy process, and we are going to do our best to move quickly. But the $1 million question is, when is Publix going to open? And unfortunately, I think permitting, the biggest item, and weather. Once we get past the permitting process, we've all got a real good idea. So again, we look forward to be back in front of you guys, and hopefully in November. And we're excited to share everything with you. It's a great project, tremendous history, and it's a wonderful plan. So we're really excited to be involved in it. So.
How big a curveball was that intersection announcement?
I think it was somewhat anticipated by everyone, that all of my predecessors. However, I think the thing that personally concerns me is southbound traffic. And I'm very familiar with Super Street. Some of the ones they showed are not too far from me. I'm very familiar with one of the large developments they showed, and they attributed for the success of that development with the Super Street. I'm very familiar with that development, and the success is there's no competition and there's nothing else in the area. But it's a very good development. We're very concerned about the potential of losing customers because of, they are not going to want to visit us if they're going south. Or there's plenty of customers that they won't care. They'll still want to come to Publix, but they won't be able to exit the center quite as quickly. So we're going to really look at it hard, and I hope that there's something we can figure out that maybe addresses, really that southbound issue. But
Joe hit it on the head when he said, they're on their way home, they want to get home.
yeah,
And they may not stop for that milk that turns into everything else like my cart does.
absolutely. No, that's exactly it, and that's the concern. And that's kind of why I asked the question about the traditional signal on the Super Street. And it sounds like it's not, I don't know if it's completely out of the realm. It sounds like maybe it is a possibility at that intersection. I know you don't want to do that on the Super Street because you want to keep traffic moving, but maybe a major intersection like that, it's worth analyzing. And that's something we're going to do our homework on and analyze.
Yeah, Robert, just to add to the explanation there, what we're hopeful of is that if they do indeed go into construction in 2023, that we are open at least 3 years prior to that. To build up the rapport with the customer, and hopefully they'll have a little bit more incentive to come across the street and come over to us. That's what we're hoping on, is that we're open long enough that we get that loyalty built up.
And I'll speak for myself, obviously want to see, the last thing we want is empty stores there because no one's going there. So anything you guys can provide us information-wise that helps us in, even though it sounds like they're going to do what they want to do, it's their roads and stuff. I mean, I know other towns have fought it, and the little that I know of it, it's enough to be dangerous, but not enough to know enough to ask the right questions.
Yeah, we don't want to jump to a conclusion right now. We want to get the facts when they get their drawings put together, when they have a final plan to take it, and we have traffic analysis data, and we'll update that and we'll adjust accordingly if we can.
Okay.
Well,
So
I'll ask you, Red Council, if you don't mind, Joe.
that's,
Was it this mayor, did I hear Sean say, could be Michigan style, didn't have to be Michigan style?
well, it was the other style, but it was Super Street either way.
Super Street or
Or
whatever.
Super Street.
Michigan versus the, I guess, standard. So I imagine that's something that you all will look at.
We have to. You know, I'm from Ohio, and I just don't like Michigan.
Fair comment. Well, I look at it as we can't get people to figure out how to use roundabouts, let alone super streets. So I'm like, if they think
Yeah.
we're gonna understand super streets, as I'm looking at it, I'm going,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'll understand it, but.
But I respect the DOT and all that they've done. They, you know, they're skilled. We'll just have to take a look in detail and come up with something that we feel comfortable with too. And if we can modify or adjust, if they're willing to have any flexibility, we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
I love their goals. I love, safety. It's all about safety. And
Right.
I'll preach that all day long. They want to keep people safe and want to keep them fed, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully there's.
Sure, pump them up.
So would it be fair to say that Saucy Burbank is sort of still locked up? It's on a
They're
contract,
very
that's what we're
interested
gonna,
in
because I like their product.
This
They're
is
here.
Saucy Burbank.
Okay, I didn't realize
You
it.
remember Jim?
Yes,
This is
I-
Peter Hackerack.
Recognize the face, I just wanted to make sure they're on board. And can you share with us at this time any other tenants you may have
I will
potentials?
tell you this, that without naming names, there's been a tremendous amount of activity.
Okay.
The one drawback on our end is that we don't have firm dates when we'll build, when we'll have buildings available to occupy, but we're getting close to that.
Okay.
But we've got a lot of interest, and I think we're gonna surprise ourselves in getting occupancy up pretty quickly, right from the start.
And footprint doesn't seem to be changing, but ideas of what you're coming out with may be different or new, that's what you're talking about, like, some, okay,
The footprint for Publix has changed because the prototype was upgraded, they changed it.
okay,
And that was something that was discussed in my reign,
okay.
that they periodically change it for the better. And then, they're always changing the prototype to keep it fresh and new. And the latest one that's out is the one that Lisa is working with.
We think everyone will be excited about it. I know when you hear change, I think probably a lot of people raises concerns, but it's actually, the footprint itself is actually smaller than the old footprint. But what's contained within that, we'll be sharing with you very soon. And I think it looks a little different, but I think everyone will be excited about it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Is the residential staying pretty much the same?
Mhm. Yeah, we don't have any plans to make any changes that hopefully we view as material or anyone else does. We're hoping to really stay consistent.
Great.
Hopefully everyone will be happy, and very soon we'll be back. So.
Okay, we're looking forward to the process and working with you guys, so thank you for making the trip out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, next up, we have reports and updates, administrators report.
Yes, I have the engineer's report from the Reasons House in your agenda packets. There's a couple of questions I have for the engineer that I haven't gotten a chance to get back with him about, but a total of $60,000 to $70,000 about added up, and foundational changes that would be needed. So I'm actually getting the ADA consultant hired next week to come in and look at those costs. So we should have some answers back for you on ADA in the next couple of weeks. Also, your cell phones have come in. We will be making some kind of acknowledgement sheets that you've received the phone before we give them to you. So hopefully sometime next week we can get you guys to come in and pick up your phones. And last, that's it. Did you manage to do it?
So does, on the structural, on the Reasons property, the structure, from what I read, he's guesstimating 60 grand just to beef up the floor.
Yes, and there's some questions that I have on the first page of the engineering report to see if that also includes the first floor. Because as I read, some of the foundational changes that are needed with the costs associated therein only apply to the second floor. So I need to make sure that there's nothing else that he didn't add in as far as numbers are concerned.
I did see one landmine that you have to watch out for is his cost assumptions are based on what he could see up. He can't see
That's
what's in the ground or what kind of ground it is. He may have a soil engineer stand, but he didn't check that. So that is something we need to look at as well. In other words, just so everyone understands what I'm talking about, he saw the pier footings where they connect to the floor framing where everything goes up. What he didn't see was the pier where it sets on the footing and goes in the ground. And if I'm reading this right, he didn't even check the footings. So you can't do any of this without knowing that those are solid. And the county will be the first one to tell you that. In fact, they'll inspect them. Any of them that are opened up, they'll inspect them.
I plan to talk to him later on next week or early next week, so I'll get some of those questions answered to see if he has any recommendations on that. He did initially estimate, like I told y'all, about $7,500 to do an engineering report, structural engineering. We got this done for less than $1,000. So saved pretty substantial money to see if we want to move forward with the project once we get all the engineering done.
Right.
The other thing I didn't see, and I don't know, Marvin's gonna know better about what type of an examination reveals this, but like the septic capacity, and I guess he hasn't even touched that in terms of what it can handle, employees, load, and
Yeah,
assembly
he
code
hasn't.
and all that.
And from my understanding, sanitary sewer runs through that area, so worst case scenario, we would just tap into sanitary sewer.
I'm trying to figure it, does it?
I think it does.
Yeah.
I
But
think
I'm
it
not
does,
sure.
because it's been a question with the Philbrick property, so
He's got,
It doesn't run through there right now.
right, but it,
okay.
There's-
I think you have to extend it, but maybe it's close enough now that we can. I
There-
haven't been
I
clear
haven't
on it
seen the
either.
new project. I don't know if you all saw it whenever you went to your road meetings, but they're doing a new project there that they alluded to at that rounded up meeting on June 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't clear on what that new project is, but
We can check on that too.
Oh, right, they were talking about extending the sewer line into the RV property.
they're,
That's right. They were
well,
going
they're
to,
updating the main, and I think there's a transition point there that they're trying to upgrade, although they did say it doesn't change the burping that we get. That smell, I guess that smell will always be there unless someone wants to buy a scrubber.
oh no, well, we could pay $25,000, they said.
Where are we on reasons? I was out of town last meeting. Is there a contract? Is there-
No. We're flying in trying to decide if it even can be done. Meaning that, and if it can be, is it gonna be so astronomical price-wise that it just prices them out with what they want for it right now? I mean, there's a lot of different angles we can take from, I think she may have shared some of them with you as far as negotiating, but we're nowhere near a contract. We're just saying, can it be done? And for the septic, I envision this, I mean, our plan B today, if we had more than 23 people, was to go to Firethorn and use that facility in a big setting. If we ever have big meetings and stuff, for the majority, 99% of the time, that could work as a town hall if we meet all the parameters. And I guess we may want to reach out to Weddington to find out what process they went through when they turned that house into a town hall, and what boxes did they have to check off, and if there was any, because if it is cost prohibitive, there's no sense in even making an offer. But if we can get our hands wrapped around, that's something we can bring to them too and say, look, it's going to cost us X to retrofit this and comply with ADA and what you're talking about, if there's issues with the ground or if it is a septic issue, which I don't believe it would be, but I think they base it on the bedrooms and total capacity and stuff. So, but no, we're not there yet. We just want to see if we need to consider that, and then we would go, I assume, into a closed session to talk about price negotiation, how we do that. So,
Well, as we look at it, we've got the cost factor, sewer, no sewer, that's just another cost as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure there's a number on that. I was informed that Philbrook wants to sell his property again, so I don't know if we're looking at that one again. Again, I'm coming into a lot of this new.
yeah, I don't know what happened with that, but I think I got direction that there was, after we
We
turned
talked
down.
about it a month or two ago.
Right.
and
Let me reach
I think
out.
we were all
All right, did
pretty
you-
sure it wasn't a good fit.
Right, I think that's what I remember, so I just left it at that. So if he's back to selling,
I heard it secondhand, he didn't say anything, it was someone else.
Yeah, someone else reached out on his behalf, and said, I think you may have gotten the email I did,
I
and
didn't
just asked if
reply to it.
the council was still looking to purchase property in the same area, whether or not they
Right.
wanted to consider another option.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was out. Reasons when that went out, we were back over to here. But then at the meeting that we had with the owners, the landowners, he's the one that brought that up, and it all of a sudden raised a bunch of ears and saying, hey, he's reconsidering it. And that's when he invited Kim and I to sit down and kind of tell us where they were at with that. So that's,
So
we
they're
met with
open to
them.
selling it again, or they're open now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Did you remember my one, yeah, I guess call it a caveat that would help me make me feel a lot better was that deed restriction. Did you ever sign that?
I have not signed it yet, but I was gonna potentially do it, but I talked to Nick and stuff, and if that's something that's gonna make you feel better to get on board and stuff is, I just don't know what that becomes after, if we do that, once we put a shovel to that, then that's a whole separate budget issue, whether it's a park or whatever we do with it. I certainly don't wanna do anything massive or anything like that, but it's whatever we do with it, or does it become part of a negotiation and say, hey, if it's deemed to be, I mean, we talked about it, I mean, ideally, I see it as a area where you have almost like an open air park, where you have concerts in that corner and stuff, and instead of putting buildings in, you drive up food trucks, which tend to be a very popular thing, and make it a weekend destination is how I see that. And talking to Ravi, I think he's open to working with us on that and stuff. So I just I didn't know if that would be a part of the negotiating. If we own that for free, and we don't have any specific plans, or maybe doing a public partnership, private partnership. I don't know what I don't know is I guess what I'm saying. So as we're talking to him, and if he's way up here, but we see the value of putting it there, and then maybe that's part of the negotiation. But if it's something that you want me to sign, I'll sign it tonight, and you can get comfortable with that.
I thought we all
'Cause I
agreed,
think-
but Nick, you've changed your mind. I just wanted to see that.
Yeah.
You said you guys talked about it, so if there
No,
was.
I said that I thought if it would make you feel better, we should just sign it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what we're being told is it can be changed again. It's just, do we go through that whole process and go through the legal matter?
Melanie Cox already drafted it,
Right.
and we looked at it. It's ready to go. It's, $36 to record it.
Right.
I'm guessing last time I saw it quickly.
I have no problem signing that. I just thought, as I'm looking at the big picture and saying, okay, is there something that we could offer them and to bring that price down? Because we own that for free. And then we have this. Does this work? And if it doesn't,
And
that's
it
fine.
puts me at ease because we're not saying we're gonna sell that off to a developer to help
Right.
pay for that.
Yeah.
It's.
No, I wouldn't
That-
say, I mean, it would be, I
I'm
envision more of a,
speculating.
yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
accusing, I'm speculating because, the preserve back there, they were all, total sold them on this idea that, hey, look, we donated the land to Marvin. So, and I never brought them up before because I didn't know the full story there, but apparently that was sort of part of their sales pitches. That'll always be, there'll be walking trails, and Marvin's talking about building a town hall. So it's a little bit of a bait and switch for them, which has nothing to do with us,
Right.
but, Toll donated it on this idea that we were gonna build a town hall there. So as long as it's in village ownership as a park, I love that, the food trucks. We floated ideas about farmer's market, all those are great.
Mhm.
But that deed restriction, I get that it can be reversed, but then it's gotta be talked to openly
Right.
in a public meeting by another council if they want to reverse it,
Sure.
and then everyone knows. So if you're really willing to sign it, if someone's willing to grab it and you sign it during the meeting, that would be huge.
No problem signing.
Okay.
No problem signing. So if we have it, I'll sign it, or I can get it later, so. Anything else on that? I mean, do you see the potential of reasons if we can get to a deal? Is that,
As long as we consider, I know Christina looked at it. If I know that corner's not being sold off to commercial, it's easier for me to wrap my head around this because that is just a mental block for me.
it's fine, totally understandable.
What we don't know yet needs to be figured out, but once we get past that point, then we floated some ideas on sort of a meeting room possibility in like the garage.
Mhm.
That was an idea that was
It
floated.
would require, I think, AC and heating right there, right?
So one of the costs would be bringing it up to heated and cooled. We've got the floor, you're dealing with the ADA. Was there anything else, Kim?
With parking.
Are we off the elevator thing?
Yeah,
Okay. Because the elevator thing's
yeah,
not fun.
because we can always come downstairs to meet with the public if
Yeah.
needed.
We're envisioning clerk, planner could even potentially be upstairs, but, you know, where they work to meet with public is, you'd want them downstairs, because that's where they deal with public plans put out and stuff. My big thing is, and that's why we wanted to bring staff over to this, we're asking them, can this work?
Right.
Can it? And if it can work, then great, because I think it speaks volumes about what we're trying to get our head wrapped around a look, and we've been presented with a couple different looks thanks to planning board and stuff, different ones that are much more appealing and stuff. But again, me getting my head around, if Wesley Chapel spent 1.368 years ago on a building similar to what we're going to do, and to think we're going to do it for under 900,000, I think is
Well,
would be a challenge.
we definitely can. That part doesn't worry me. The way it was designed, the way the architect designed it, even the new design of the spot, it can come in under budget, or at least at budget. That doesn't worry me, but if we're looking at houses, we just need to be realistic. When I talk to people during the election about, hey, here's the village hall we're gonna build, a lot of them are excited about the meeting room. You know, you've got HOAs out there that don't have a meeting room. I think there's 27 subdivisions, roughly, in Marvin, and maybe 5 of them have clubhouses. So you've got 20 subdivisions.
Right.
Mine, for example, does Canterville have one?
So we
Heritage, what's the new one next one? I'm looking at you. like you
Woodland
would know.
Woodland Forest, Wood doesn't have one.
Woodland.
What's the other one?
Well, that's where that garage may work out, if we can put AC in there, that can be their meeting room, if that works there, so.
I think previous councils, and me included, dreamed of a real, you know, sort of adult meeting room with bathroom access. We talked about separating the office so that someone can use it and lock up when they're done, even the potential for renting it. If we're looking at the houses and we're running numbers, what we should compare them to is, if Philbrook house isn't an option, then it doesn't even need to be in the picture. But we should compare that to, you know, what's the big deal staying here if we're gonna be using a meeting place like Firethorn Country Club. You know, I'm not thrilled about the concept, but what is it right here, $1,200?
It's between 11 and 12, somewhere there.
11 and 12.
Yeah.
If we're gonna be remodeling a house, you know, is it such a big deal to stay in this one? I don't have a dog in a race on building a new one. I just dreamed of our own village hall after 20 years. I've heard Lanny talk about it, I've heard Ron talk about it, residents talk about it. It's just a neat idea.
Yeah.
I know you're worried about budget, but staying under budget on a commercial building where you're not doing copper ceilings and you don't have homeowners with dreamy eyes walking around changing things all the time, it's not difficult to stay within budget.
I just don't know if it can be done at under one, or if they're doing it for 1.3, but that's another issue and stuff. I look at it, and you've talked to your people, I've heard nothing bad about choosing that, if it can work.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
mean,
still, but
yeah.
I guess my point is it's still a house. But again, for tonight, for this, I have, you know, researching this, just as long as it's not a lot of money, you got the cost way down to under 1,000, that's great. I'm not against looking at it more.
Okay.
My only request is that you sign that deed restriction.
That's fine. Okay, that's all you had for Christina for administrating?
It is.
Okay, planning board update, John?
I don't have any.
John, I think John
Oh.
was here to listen to the
Yeah.
presentation.
Oh, okay,
If there's
I
anything
didn't know if you were,
To go
Yeah.
over.
okay.
Could I ask John a question?
Sure.
I was looking at Joe to make sure it was okay.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sorry.
So, and you can stop me if I'm saying the wrong thing, but I know Publix was concerned about the DRB process back when they were, previous council, they were working through it. But it's my understanding that you and that planning board sort of structured that DRB process as a streamline.
Yes. And in fact, just since you're on the subject, when they came back the last time in front of us, I had stepped in as interim planner of the planning board for a while, and they came here and they were concerned about the DRB process, felt,
I
because
heard it a lot, that's why I'm bringing it up.
And so I did, just so you know, I said I would work with them and draw up a very clear sort of flow chart of what the process looked like, and I did send that to them. I'm sure I have a copy somewhere, but probably one on the hard drive here too, so that they said it was helpful, but yeah.
So my question to you, John, is, it's the same members, planning board and DRB,
Right.
Mhm.
looking at this material. Does it feel like a streamlined process, or does it feel like it's a hindrance?
You know,
Am I
Planning
asking
board-
the wrong
First of all,
person?
Yeah, well-
we've not had anything come up yet.
right.
You know,
It's very,
so,
very.
So the planning board really, as it is today, has not functioned as the DRB yet. So I don't feel like John probably know yet. We haven't discussed how that will work, and when Marvin Gardens comes in, we need to do that
I mean, I've read what's, in our,
in the code.
codes and
Right.
stuff as it regards to, but it really doesn't say a whole lot.
It doesn't look as difficult as it looks on paper, and having done it a few times, and that's one of the reasons we ended up consolidating it with the planning board, because you would go years and years and years without ever having anything, and you'd lose DRB members, and then all of a sudden something would pop up, and it was just so much easier to use the board that was there. But from that standpoint, I can walk anybody through or help you through it. It's not too difficult.
Excuse me, that it's gonna be a great, I think most of our board is experienced, not necessarily, with Marvin, but, we have a lot of experience, in this sort of stuff, so it's not like we're trying to learn, what it's about. And so, I don't see it as a great hindrance.
Well, the reason I posed the question is, we know they're coming,
Mhm.
so
And
if you know you're building a
I
shed
spoke
and you're
out.
missing a hammer, you go get a hammer before you need it. So if you think, hammer's a bad example, if you think that the tools that you have aren't gonna be enough for when they come to keep them moving,
Well,
I think we
of
all
course, I
agree
didn't
with
know that they were gonna be as fast-tracked as it seems like they are, and so we will be getting prepared beforehand.
We have a meeting in 2 weeks, so this is all pretty new in terms of knowing that they're coming. So I think that's something we can put on the agenda and talk about the
So we'll be-
process and how we're
We'll
gonna
be
do it.
prepared, if it was something that was next July or something, I'm not sure that we would be focused quite as, close on it as we obviously will be now. So we'll be prepared.
Well, and it was sort of set up so that the hard work was done, right? The hard work was putting in the standards and agreeing with those standards. Now that those standards are there, to be honest, the DRB meetings we had were some of the fastest meetings we ever had. Because it's just a matter of taking what's required, checking it off and saying, yep, and passing it through. So but I understand if they've never been through it, it might be.
well, I just wanted to make sure you knew, John, that it was intended to make it smoother.
Yeah.
But I don't remember which one of them it was. I remember hearing that they thought it was making things more difficult.
Well, I
That wasn't
stepped
the goal.
out, when they left and introduced myself to them, considering the fact that I'll be seeing them in 2 months. sounds like. So at least spoke to them, you know, just for a face-to-face introduction.
As
Well, if
long as you and
they-
Laura.
Amber Meadow said the same thing at first, and then when they came through, they're like, oh, that was easy. So, yeah, I think I'd like to think looks bad on paper, but it's structured.
I don't know the single public stock, but I would love to see them get going.
Okay. Next up, we have PRG board update.
She's not here, and the only thing.
She wanted to pick a couple dates she had for us or something like that.
Y'all have a joint meeting scheduled for August 30th, I believe, right? She just wanted you to look at the attached agenda that she's got proposed, and if you have any suggestions, changes, questions, or anything like that, then you can let me know. But as it stands, those are the items that they wish to discuss that night.
Is it in the morning or at night?
This will be in the morning at 9.
These are good questions. Are good topics.
So we don't.
And we're expecting, how much time are you allotting for this, just out of curiosity, given this agenda?
Well, given that this is your typical work session,
Oh, it's on our work session?
yes.
Okay.
So you can, advise them as to how much time they actually have,
Okay.
on
Well,
that.
we'll see how we get through this meeting and stuff and see what we have left. But yeah, it's all good topics, I agree, Robert.
Before we move away from Christina, I just have one question. I see the next item is the deputy clerk thing. Are you and everyone that works here, anyone that's required to take an oath of office, have they done it?
We actually just discussed that today. We don't have to do it in a meeting, so we're gonna take and do that Monday, just between me and Barbara.
But you need to appoint her in an open meeting.
But everyone else, I know you've taken the oath,
Mhm.
and I think everyone signed conflict of interest forms. Could you
They should
just
have.
make sure everyone's up to
Yeah.
date? I think we just signed new ones.
Yes, the board, the council just signed new ones.
If you just make sure staff's up to date on it as well.
And the staff all signed conflict of interest forms.
That's
They're
signed
all,
form, they all
yes.
signed?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Two deputy clerks?
You can keep Kelly as one. I don't think it really matters.
I was gonna ask that, does she go away, or does she still keeps her title in case you weren't around? Say you had to leave for,
Melanie,
I mean, you can have, I would think you could have a couple people do
You
what you
can.
want. I don't think it hurts anything.
designated.
Yeah, it's
But
not-
she'll be the
it's
main
not a
one, we're not
problem.
having to
Yeah.
call her in to do
Yeah.
special.
It's just that Kelly is part-time,
Right,
and
right.
it
That makes
just
sense.
makes more sense than
Yeah.
I doubt there will ever be a time where both of me and Barbie will be gone, so.
at the same time, yeah.
Okay, so we, I guess we'll talk more about that once if you're all okay with that. If there are any changes, I would suggest, I guess, getting with either Christina or the chairman and adding, subtracting, whatever you want on the agenda items for that, so. Next up, we have consent items, consent agenda.
Did we need to make a motion on Christina?
No, she's
That's in
it's
the
part of the
consent.
consent agenda. Mhm.
Yeah, so,
I would like to pull D, the minutes, because I know Barbie, you and I worked on them, and I know you sent out the new ones, but I was out of town and have not had a chance to look at them.
Okay.
So,
and I did
I'd
see
like to pull
something,
those.
so I'll get with you as well on some of the, either spelling or verbiage. So D is pulled.
I have to find my list because I had it with the other agenda. Sorry.
Barbie, did you grab that deed when you walked out earlier?
I have it right here.
Can Joe sign it?
Well, I have to notarize it, so do you want to do it now,
I'll
or
do it
you want
right
to do it
after
after
the
the meeting?
meeting.
I mean, it's,
No, just in time to give it, because Melanie, you need to record it.
I can do it, or y'all can know it, whatever. Typically, we go to the courthouse about once a week, and so we can take it when we go to the courthouse.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So you're gonna have to help me.
I think you're good on your.
We're good.
Yeah, because Mary had called, just so y'all know, Mary had called with questions on B and C, and I've got the questions here answered. I'll pass them out to you, so you can have the answers as well. And she had mentioned potentially putting some conditions or making the approval of the Golden Bell Drive contingent upon a few other things that we're gonna talk about with new business K. So I think we come to a resolution to just keep that one item on the consent, and we'll address the other things in K.
Okay.
You good with that?
And I'm just, get double check, I think everything, oh, the only other things wanted to pull from consent was the rules of procedure.
Okay.
And I think we answered everything else today, I think, right? The treasury report, the annexation. Yep, that's it.
So the issue you had with rules of procedure, is there something in particular?
I just want to make sure that everyone is okay with what was written, because I'm not sure, and I know Robert wasn't here, so that's my reason.
Are we tabling that, or are we gonna move it to new business?
I don't know how late we are going.
I think it would be old business since we talked
We'll
about.
table it and use it, put it on the work session?
Maybe it'd
Table it
be
on
easier
work
to
session.
do that.
You can pull it and put it anywhere you want to. It doesn't necessarily have to.
Let's just put it under unfinished business.
For
It
tonight?
shouldn't, yeah, it shouldn't take that long.
Right,
Under new business?
Yeah.
unfinished.
Unfinished? Okay.
It's unfinished, we talked
I
about it last
actually haven't
week.
had time to look at it at all. Can we just put it on work session?
Do you, okay, so you want to
Because
table
we're
it?
gonna have a work session either way, right?
Yes, yeah.
Can we just table it to work session?
That's-
And then I just had a question about those two subdivision vinyl plats, but I can wait till you're done.
Oh,
Or
okay.
Kim was next.
And that's fine, because that's what I was gonna pull off, but my questions were answered. I don't know if you still have them, questions.
Mine's simple,
Sorry.
but if whoever was talking, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You go ahead and finish, then I'll ask my question.
No, I don't know. I think you should go ahead and if you wanna pull those items off as well, the flats, just five flats.
You were gonna leave one on, which one were you leaving on?
C.
Go
C
with
kind of has some overlap with new business K.
Right, so I might actually could leave both B and C, I think, based on the questions and answers I
My
have.
other question was to Laura, that Hammerhead Drive. Did anything else change on that?
Nothing.
Just what you highlighted?
Just that highlighted portion,
And
so
then
that there's not quite so much pavement right outside their driveway.
Makes sense. I saw the easement. Was that private drive always part of the plan?
Yes.
It was?
It's
Okay.
a lot of negotiation there,
Yeah.
and I was surprised the fire marshal had no problem with changing it. He said that they can still access it and be
And
fine.
the
So I
developer was
don't
okay
have a
with it
problem
too,
with that,
right?
but no one else does.
That was my only question, was whether the developer was okay, because I think he owns the
Yeah, private drive is
So I
still
don't want him to
part-
later
Yep.
just come back and
Yep,
complain.
they are aware.
The only reason I zeroed in on this was because it said final plat, and in terms of, we
Just
talked,
say
Huh?
revisions.
No, I
can we
just,
add that?
Yep,
new glass.
For posterity?
Yep,
That it
agreed.
says revision.
Yep. That's the application's a final drive revision.
Is everyone okay with that, just for the few?
Prefer that, actually, yeah.
So we keeping one on? Or
I'm
take
good
it?
with keeping Bell Grove on. You two
I'm
were
good.
talking
We're-
about Golden Bell.
I think, Mary, I think you're okay now after we've,
Yeah, because whatever I've got, I can address in
K.
K,
Right.
because they're related.
Okay.
So
we're gonna
A,
leave those
B,
items on.
C, D is off, E is good,
G was the only other
F,
thing.
G
F
is
is
rules of
good,
procedure, so
and G.
are we,
And we're gonna table that?
Table it to the work
it's
session.
2 sentences, you don't wanna work on it, on unfinished business or move it, and if we can't get to,
If there's nothing,
there's really 2 sentences.
I just like to look at the whole thing, read the whole thing.
It's fine, let's just table it.
Okay, we'll table to the work session.
And that was, I don't know if it's me or who it is, but I'm fine with everything else. I got everything else answered, so there's nothing else I need to remove.
Okay.
So that audit contract, I'm just gonna ask a question. I saw that the price changed because of how, do we get to take that, if we want to, and this is a Chris thing, but any costs associated with PAL, we were told could come out of PAL, so if we're having to change that budget,
We may potentially be able to. There are some restrictions in PAL bill funds, so I need to make sure that that's not one of the restrictions. I think that you probably can, but I don't know the answer to that.
I personally am happy to bring that up to you and Chris. I just wanted to point out that when we went into PAL, we were coached that anything related to PAL could come out of that money.
It should be able to do that.
So I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. You're good on all the? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, next up we have unfinished business. Consider approval of village engineer 4-year road project sample and staff report. Christina?
So at the last council meeting, we had that 4-year road sample that AMT had put together, and y'all had asked me to do kind of a layman's terms of what that spreadsheet meant. So the memo that was in your agenda packets kind of summarizes basically the entire spreadsheet. So I can go over the memo with you. That was pretty much the gist of everything. If anybody has any questions, I'll stand by to answer, but that memo summed everything up.
And
We don't,
that one, as I was trying to get up to speed, that's in here?
it is,
It's actually behind the cover sheet. Are you talking about the memo?
The memo.
Yeah, it's behind the cover sheet because of the way it copies on the copier.
So these are all those Lake and Chase flats.
No, that is,
so basically, the first year would be 2019, Providence Estates, Providence Ridge, Beechwood, Firethorn, and Future Surface. And this is based on a 4-year resurfacing schedule, so all roads would be done within 4 years. And then the second year would be those subdivisions listed, so no subdivisions are broken up in any given year except for Marvin Creek because of its size, so those will actually be broken up into 2 different fiscal years. This is based on approximately $300,000 a year. We do need to add engineering costs on there, so you see the ranges anywhere from $315 to $330-ish. That does not take into consideration inflation, so we may see actual slight increases due to inflation.
See, Marvin Creek's broken up in 3 years.
Is it?
So is that phase 1, phase 2?
Oh, it
phase
is
3?
broken up 3 years. Yes, it is. You're right.
They're not gonna split between phases.
No.
Yeah.
You think only 2 and 3.
Okay.
And all I need is an approval of the schedule. If y'all don't feel comfortable with the schedule that's listed, if we can move forward with at least 2019, so we can get the ball rolling on that, we can look at the other years later.
When we went into this, my big issue with categorizing or listing subdivisions was that I personally didn't want to vote on any one subdivision. And I live in a subdivision that will never be on this list. Our roads are private. But a resident brought up to me that, and no offense, Mary, but Canterville was on the first year list, and there wasn't a firm reason why, because when you look at the schedule of scores, they weren't highest on the list. Now, what I told the resident is I thought it was part of AMT's negotiation.
It's an average thing, right?
AMT had said we had to give DOT something. We had to sort of prime the pump. So I'm assuming that's where Canterville made it up on the list. But I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So as long as, in other words, I don't want to vote on who goes next. I don't care who's on this list as long as AMT has given us reason that they're on the list. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, it does to me for sure.
So they in the previous agenda package, you would have noticed a matrix that they have, and it grades it from 7 different distresses. And so they basically gave it a scoring based on those distresses that I have listed here. And they also have made their plan in conjunction with DOT's schedule too, so that if, and I'm just gonna use this as an example, let's say Beechwoods are actually a little bit better than Providence Glen, but DOT has some roads in the area of Beechwood, so they are gonna go ahead and get that one done within the first year because there's cost savings generated with doing it all at once, if that makes
That's the way
any
I
sense.
understood it too,
Yeah.
was they had to take into consideration not just the worst road, but then since they're in that area, the cost savings of doing what's in the vicinity.
Now, I don't have a schedule in front of me. Is it in the packet? The actual scores?
Yeah, I have a copy of it, it's been in the last 2 packets.
Well, I drove down a road that I normally don't drive down in Heritage, the Heritage subdivision. And that's an old road, and I'm not sure where it's on there, but it's only 2,000 foot of road. So I have to wonder if it's right across the street from Innisbrook.
Isn't it a private road though?
I don't think so. I don't think Heritage is a private road.
Heritage Oak,
Marvin Estates, where I'm at, is a private road. There's at least 2 other subdivisions out there that are private roads. I thought some of Providence Estates was private road.
is it Heritage Oak? Because I don't see a Heritage.
Yeah, it's Heritage Oaks.
Okay.
They're not even on the list.
Yeah, Heritage Oak, has a rating of 70, and it looks like. So the lower the rating, the worse it is, and it's a 70.
So where is, I don't want to pick on anyone, so don't tell me which phase it is, but, no, you pick one and tell me what their score is. I don't,
Okay, so like Providence Estates for the next fiscal year, so there's a portion of Laurelwood Lane that has a rating of 0, and that's because it's unpaved currently right now. So
okay.
then,
But that is a state road?
no, that's one of our roads. No, I'm sorry, no, it is.
It's in
state.
dispute,
It's
actually.
a state. And then, for
It's almost like
instance,
half and half. I mean, part
That's,
of it.
that's what I remember about that subdivision.
Right.
Providence Ridge, without a ruler, I can't tell you if this is Grigg or Royster Road or Run, but it's a scoring of 64. So basically, there's a lot of state, DOT doing a lot of roads in that area. That's one of them that is ours, and it's gonna cost $17,000 in that year. And so we'll just go down the list. If you'll see on this chart, there's numbers that are missing. That means those are DOT costs. So all of these roads right here that are missing, which is in Providence Estates, are DOT costs. That's why they're kind of first on the list, is because there's some primary DOT roads that they're gonna try to do it in one fell swoop.
So this was part of AMT and DOT's negotiation, which we're not part of, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Which
So
is,
I guess it's just important to me that the public know that we're not, you know, Joe's not saying, hey, let's do Firethorn, and he's
Right.
not saying, hey, let's do more.
I was leaving it up to the engineers to decide
You can
what
do that.
would make sense and stuff.
So like
Can I say
Heritage,
for the record that, to be honest with you, I'm not even that I actually was hoping they would not use Canterfield Creek. Sorry, I hope that doesn't offend you all. I was actually hoping they wouldn't do Canterfield Creek first. Because the program hadn't been around in a while, so I was sort of hoping other would.
Well, what
First one.
spurred me is there was a resident on Heritage Oaks that asked about why certain areas were getting done, and then that's what it spurred me to go and actually drive the roads. I'm like, they're absolutely right. How did they come to this, where this one got up on top, and you know?
well, it was actually the first time I'd been down that road. Maybe when we moved here in 2002, I went down there, but not since then. So that one was a surprise. I have actually never been in a couple of these neighborhoods. But again, as long as the list is dictating, it's fine, as long as the third party's making the list, and we're not fudging numbers to make something happen. But also, more importantly, if you or I or any of us get a call and someone says, hey, how come, Marvin Creek is going before, or phase 1's going before phase 2, and I don't even know which phase is which phase. My answer would be, well, there's a list, and then I would direct them to call you, but they should also know that they are allowed to come speak to council under council comments.
And our goal was to make that kind of whatever they reported easier for them to read in public, to say, okay, this makes sense. I think from the engineering standpoint, why did they do, and I think that's what this letter was about, and why they did what they did.
And I agree with that. I was just, when I read the letter and I saw that, for instance, that little subdivision still wasn't on the list, I was surprised. But I don't have this at home on my chalkboard. I'm not looking at it every day. So as long as someone is
You
steering,
can have it, you can, okay,
Sure.
yeah.
as long as someone's steering the boat,
Correct.
And we don't, and it's not, I don't think the intent is, well, the intent is to obviously have this as our 4-year plan. But if something comes up between now and, the next 4 years, then obviously we can revisit it. But that, it's just basically so we have some direction and where we're going, where we can tell AMT we're going, and they've already decided this completely objectively, so it's something that we want to move forward with to make sure that we have that kind of plan in place.
That's
Well,
why having the criteria was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they did also say that the list could also change depending on conditions. Let's say you get a snow
That's right.
and a road has a lot of cracks in it, and the snow expands into cracks and pumps up some asphalt. That happens. So when's the last time, do you know when this was updated?
That was actually, that assessment was done in 2016, but that actual table was done earlier this year. The assessment still kind of rides with the current conditions, but not a lot's changed.
Does anyone remember how often we asked them to take a look for the assessment? And I don't remember what the assessment cost us, but
I don't, typically you don't see it done very often.
Yeah, the assessment was, I thought, a couple $1,000s.
It's
It
pretty
wasn't,
intense.
it wasn't cheap, but they did all 30 roads, and that was way back when, so they have, I think, a good idea or handle on it,
And we
especially.
can redo an inspection for this.
no,
I,
they redid the
I
chart.
think they didn't think it was necessary, like it hadn't been long enough, and they thought things had changed that much.
I see.
I think they spot checked a few places, and it's kind of the same, so,
Okay.
yeah.
See, it doesn't surprise me at all that Firethorn's on the list, and this is not, pretending over the Firethorn.
It actually surprised me, because I thought we were told that your roads were fine.
No, it didn't surprise me, because I've been doing a job in there, and driving the roads, and I'm surprised at how bad the main road going in, I'm surprised at how bad it is. So it didn't surprise me to see that on there, it just surprised me not to see.
We're almost done with all the construction, no offense, I know there's always remodeling going on, but the big construction, I think most of the homes are, I think almost all the lots are sold, so, and finished.
Okay, so do we need to approve this? Is that what I'm
Yes,
hearing?
yes.
Are we approving
The-
This
that whole
plan,
the new
you guys can-
structure, the plan, but we're not,
Basically, that memo that I have there is the same thing as that. It's just kind of,
Like a cover sheet, right?
okay. So the only question I would propose to council is, do we want them to drive around and do it, even if it's not as in-depth and up-to-date?
they did do, like I said, a spot check when they were doing that assessment, or that together.
They spot check?
They did. I don't think that it's, my opinion is it's gonna cost a lot of money for them to go back and drive every single street and assess it. And we did not budget for that, so that's something that we would have to talk about paying for and checking to see the cost of it.
So is there a, I don't want to call it grievance, I don't want to call it complaint, but is there a process where an HOA can say, look, Village of Marvin, we're not on the list, we think we should, we'd be willing to pay the fee? This is just an idea, off the cuff, to have A&T come take a look at ours again, because I think it's gotten worse in the last year or two.
Well, the only problem with that is that this plan was done in conjunction with DOT's resurfacing, so that it would change the cost.
Okay.
So if Firethorn came in and said, hey, we're willing to pay for the survey, but DOT's not scheduled to do anything, and I know there's no DOT roads in there, but I'm just saying, some of them that are mixed, it's gonna make our costs go up because we're not having any cost savings associated with doing it together.
I get that, I
So-
get that.
It'll change the whole cost of the 4-year plan.
So can we just commit to any grievances being brought to council?
Yeah.
And normally I call it
We
an
can-
admin thing, but this has always been somewhat of a hot topic. Is everyone else okay with that?
so you're saying have it go where? Comes to council?
At least in an email.
Grievances.
In an email?
At least in an email, just hey, just so you know, there was a complaint that,
So if staff gets one, just bring it to y'all's attention.
Just send it to our attention.
normally I don't need to know the details like that, but that one would be nice to know.
Yeah. we can do that.
Does anyone else want to see this?
I have it.
So, I think I have it. Okay, anything else on that?
Nothing else that I have.
Okay. Do we need a motion to,
You need a motion?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
need a motion to approve the 4-year resurfacing schedule? As presented by, I guess this is A&T. Further discussion?
Who made the motion?
I made it.
I did.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Okay, next up we have, we dropped the meeting minutes. Discussion consideration of website. It says council member here, and I think
It's
it's,
me.
it is you?
It's me.
Okay.
Who do you
I
think
thought it was me.
Oh, go ahead then.
No, I had nothing to talk about other than, I was gonna talk a little bit about the branding, but I'll let you go, so
Well-
it just didn't specific.
We had the branding and the website on last time, and I know that we didn't get the branding stuff together, but we've been talking about redoing the website for months now. And Barbie had gotten us some good information, and it just kind of pittered out, and we haven't followed up on it. So I still think the website needs to be reworked, revamped, updated. So I just wanted to bring it up again and try to get some traction with it.
And I just, if you don't mind me interjecting real quick, we've been having some issues internally with storage space and trying to get stuff on the agenda and putting new kind of sections on there. So we've been having issues aside from just appearance, just from the sake of functionality, that we need to address at some point in time.
So let's address it.
I'm all for if a revamp of it and stuff. We talked about what direction do you go? Do you go to a company that offers, and the prices are all over the place. I know we talked about branding too, and how does that, if we're looking at branding, does that coincide with website? Is that something a branding company can help us with, or whatever, or are those two separate different things and stuff? So that's where I thought they kind of, that village website, when it said website, I know we discussed it. I think there's clearly a problem. I think we've experienced, or you guys have shared with me from a staff, some of the concerns and stuff. So how we go about it, I don't know if it's just a matter of, soliciting website, which I think we've done before, right? And we've gotten some prices.
Yes, Barbie's got.
Yeah, remember we had contracts from VC3, had two different
Right.
contracts for two different offers. And it's from the company that already hosts the website already, where you can go into a partnership, you pay upfront money, a one-time fee, and then in 5 years, they give you a reskin free of charge as part of the partnership. It's an open source platform which allows staff to be able to access and put content on there, and pictures and things like that, whereas right now the only thing I'm able to do is content, and if there's not a pencil there, then I can't place anything there. So like we're experiencing that now, trying to get 2 applications on there that should be on the website, but I can't load them up because I don't have access to that page. I have access to the main page, but not to that particular page. So it would help with the functionality of it. It also will give Marvin a new fresh look. As far as the branding part of it, that could coincide with whatever website we have.
Okay.
And basically that could all wrap around together.
I just didn't know if branding companies offered website services too, or not.
Sometimes branding companies do not do that type of service.
Okay.
All they do is branding.
Right.
And they contract that out to companies that actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I know that is because when I was with Granite Quarry, we did the exact same thing with Rowan County. So they redid the website, but the branding company would put the branding into our website. We just needed the logos that they were going to use for the county and loaded it into the website. So that's basically what we need, is this whatever brand Marvin comes up with, we need to give that brand to whatever company's doing our website, so that it will coincide with what we're branding.
My only concern was that this was only done in 2013, and if I remember correctly, it was like $15,000 or $16,000.
The current website?
Yeah. Now, to be honest, I'm not a WordPress fan, which is the basis upon which this is built, and it does make it very difficult because everything is essentially table-based, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't realize it, but you're actually working in very concrete grids, and it kind of limits what you could do in terms of being creative or flexible or attractive. And so the only thing I'd say is if you're gonna move into a new website, make sure that you're looking at probably what they call a WYSIWYG system, where you're looking at something that, you know, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So if you wanna be creative about what you're loading, and you
Yeah,
wanna have each page have its own look, and that this time, you know, because to me, $15,000 seemed like a lot of money to kind of get that template. So just make sure.
And that's what this one open source is.
Yeah, can we, I know you've got the VC3, I was right, VC3.
VC3.
You've talked to them and you've gotten a couple of different options from them. Can we get like a third or fourth option from like different companies? And then we can look at them?
Yeah, I have another company, but they're very expensive.
Okay.
They're even
Well,
more
let's-
expensive than VC3, but
let's-
we can get the,
Yeah.
so that you can see the apples from the
That would
oranges
be good.
on there.
I'd say let's get 3 at least. And then-
3 more?
No, 3 total.
Okay, so
3
you want
total.
2 more?
Yeah, just to look at so that we can, you know, have an idea of cost and functionality and, you know, look and what the services are gonna be with it.
Bells and whistles.
Right, and then we can, you know, bring that back and,
So what, let me just ask this question real fast. Actually, you know, where I came from, we just did a rebranding and a new website. And we actually had our vendor to do our website in conjunction with our new branding. It was not cheap. I'll go ahead and tell you, it was close to $50,000. But they really did an in-depth logo creation. I mean, they actually went and did stakeholder analysis and put a lot of thought into the logo itself. I mean, it took a lot of time for them to do it. So it's not something that has to be done here to that degree. But I guess the question that I have is, how does everybody feel about the current seal or logo? Is everybody okay with it? Do you see a need to do rebranding? Because if there isn't that need, then we can look at them together. But you know, if you don't feel the need to do a rebranding, then let's just stab the website and then we can go back and add a new branding in later.
I mean, like the colors and the way it looks.
Just changing it all together.
I don't have a problem with the logo. I think what I'm hearing from Kim and Barbie is that our website itself just sucks. And that, my word, not yours, and that it's hard to get information up there. Can't get enough information, I think is what you said. In terms of rebranding, I'm not against it. So if we want to do a contest and with a prize for someone to come up with a new logo, that doesn't matter to me. Was the big cost, Barbie, last time on the website? I remember there was making a website and then there was supporting the website. And that's where the numbers were getting high.
I think you're paying $200 a month right now, which is to me an awful lot if you ask me.
Yes, and plus with our contract, the way it exists now is if we ask them to do something that I can't do, that's an extra cost.
Oh, gosh.
On top of what we're already paying. So the contract itself doesn't support any additional content that needs to be added to it.
What was that VC3 contract you all were talking about? Is that one of the ones we saw last time?
Yeah, that's the one. Remember, you saw it during your budget work session. I think it was in March. There is an upfront fee. It's pretty high, yes. There is an upfront fee, but that's a one-time fee, so you don't ever have to pay that again. Then it's a partnership, and what that allows them to do is to still do what they're doing, but we have full access of the website. So we would be able to put content, any type of content that we want. Like I say, it's open source, so it's almost like a Word document that staff can put up there, and it would be very simple to do.
We'll get a few
But
quotes.
we'll get a go-ahead. What we'll do is get a couple of more quotes, we'll bring them back, and then you all decide if that's the route you want to go.
I'm just going to say for the record what I found, having looked at this way back and having run our site a few years ago, the village site a few years ago. Often I found that some of the companies that will sell to villages seem to be an awfully big markup, right? I mean, if the branding is really what you're looking for and look, it's often better to spend that on the design and then know that you can upload your HTML to a number of different services for a fraction of the cost and really run it right out of the office, which is what we used to do. So,
Is it cumbersome to send out a village resident email? There's gotta be 10 companies that live in Marvin. I mean, and ask them if they wanna bid on it? Is there anything wrong with that?
I think the idea we had, I know some people that are national branders, that they approached me and said, you know, their way of participating or volunteering, that they would come in and talk to us about that. And at one point, they talked about some of it being done pro bono. I mean, these guys they're branders for major drugs across the world, basically, and stuff. And they're right here in Marvin.
So can they come talk to Barbie?
Well, I thought that they could certainly talk to Barbie, but I was interested in, and we just haven't connected yet. I don't know if he just travels a lot. It's just having them come in and explain what they do as a company and how that may kind of lead into, or maybe they can give us better ideas of how, if you're saying we're providing content, or branding companies provide the content, and then you have a website that's not going to work with what they're providing you, what's the sense of that? Maybe there's a branding company out there that does kind of the one-stop shop that does it all and includes websites and stuff. I don't know what I don't know. That's why I said, you know, just listening.
It's worth hearing out, because I guess what I'm hearing are two different things. One's branding and one is website.
Right.
I agree.
And if the two are these days are supposed to be married, then that's.
I would
fine.
think so. That's
Right.
why
I'm
I
not
thought.
in love with this logo. It's just always been there. I don't.
Oh, now this is our official seal though. So
You would do it different.
So you have to.
You'd have a seal and a logo.
Yeah.
I'm open to new branding. Definitely open to new branding.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily one way or another on that, but if there's something that they could present, because I mean, we even changed the verbiage you were sending out, that what was going out to Union County, you know, what we are, who we are, Chamber of Commerce
Well,
and
that,
stuff.
she just brought up a good point too. They are discussing doing wayfinding community-wide, countywide, and the seal is not something you would want to put on a wayfinding sign. It's just too detailed for a commuter to drive by. So that's probably a year or two down the road, and we definitely would need something different in place before that happens.
So a tree logo.
No offense to a neighboring town, but I don't want to be the next, where they did a whole thing on that, and that certainly didn't go well, or it wasn't. Yeah.
Did we at least circle around what you were asking about, Kim? I feel like I went in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I just think we need to get some more quotes, and if you guys can talk to some branding companies too, and see what they're all about and what their services are, I think that would be good and helpful to then bring back, and then we can talk about it again, but try to make some decisions.
I feel like in at least the last 3 or 4 years, a lot of the municipalities in Union County changed their logos, and branding have been through this, so maybe worth, calling some of those that you
Calling some of
like.
our friends.
Right, and seeing the company they used and the website they use.
And staff will look into it. We'll try to get a report,
Good
either in the
idea.
work session or a subsequent meeting. If we have time before the next meeting, we'll do it.
Well, if we've got a resident that's willing to come in and talk to us, it sounds like he's willing to do some of it, at least on maybe, I'm putting words in his mouth, on a volunteer basis.
Advice is free.
Yeah.
We're just learning, so, and that's just a matter of connecting, so, but that's all I had. Did you have anything? Anyone else? Thank you. Good recommendation of tapping it. Okay, next up, new business items. Discussion and consideration of resolution of intent RS 2018-08-02, amending village charter to change. Wait, what's the verbiage change?
To allow the mayor
To allow the mayor to vote.
mayor to vote.
Allow the mayor to vote. And
So
set
And
public
set
hearing
public
for August 30th, 2018, 9 a.m. Village Hall. And you have this.
This originally came up in February. There was an issue with, I think there's a rule of procedure that talked about boards and how you were able to vote for board positions. And then there were some questions about, what role does the mayor have? How does the voting work? And I had a memo at that time and laid forward what, would need to happen if you wanted to change it so the mayor could vote, and you can do it through local legislation or amend the charter. And after conversations individually, Joe, Kim, and Nick, you all indicated that this is something you wanted to move forward with, so I drafted the resolution for that.
So,
I have so many different tangents of questions, so I don't know who starts first.
We did this twice before. Robert, remember you did it because originally you wanted Joe's term to be 4 years, but then a few meetings later, we changed it again to be 2 years. So, gosh, within a 12-month period, we did that twice.
I remember
yeah,
the term
I think
discussion.
Melody Graham walked us through all that. No, I'm not second guessing the procedure. It's just the changing of the charter, however long it's been in place, just like I said earlier, Joe, and please don't take it personally, I just don't see the need to change a charter. You three have the majority already. I'm not sure why you feel the need to change rules and procedures to give yourself a vote power when you have the tiebreaker, which is already the most powerful vote in the room. That's, you can go ahead, Mary, that was my
No,
thought.
no, no, so it's, I have, like I said, I've got so many different tangents, some of them, they're everywhere, so I'll wait for that, for me to ask that question.
All right, yeah, I just asked it, if you want to answer it, Joe.
Are you looking for an answer from me?
Yeah, I don't understand why you feel the need to change the charter to allow yourself to vote when right now you already have the power to break.
Right, well, I think one of the reasons, if you want to put an example out there, one of the reasons that happened that you took advantage of Nick being gone and adding something, if you remember when Christina Frazzini was resigned, we took it, and how you got put into office in the beginning, it was we sent out notification to everybody. And they submitted their applications, and it wasn't even me that voted on it, it was actually only the remaining council members that voted on bringing you in at that point. So, but you took advantage of a 2-to-1 situation. So we had an election. The election results were where they were. So there is a majority, even though I don't like it, and I'll go on record. This is the worst position to be in because you almost have to constantly remind people it's not me making the decisions, it's me and 2 other council members making the decisions. And when you have such a tight and a split council, you're going to have times where you have to make that, or the majority has rolled, and when the majority rolls, and it's the community that chose the elector, who they elected. And what I saw take place is, I think, taking advantage of a 2-to-1 vote when we knew clearly, and it got to people hiding around the building and stuff, and all of a sudden coming in. It's just, and especially what really bothered me, Robert, is I was trying to get some verbiage specifically in April meeting, if I recall, I kept going in about 48-hour notice for any hirings, firings, or appointments. We were very clear on that, and we couldn't get to a decision of what the verbiage would be to make it sense. And then Ron clearly looked at me and says, "We don't need this. I mean, go back and listen to the tapes. We don't need this rule, Joe, because this is about trust." And then you guys did what you did, and you just took advantage of Nick being away and adding something to the agenda. So it's something that, if nothing else, it blocks the ability for the minority at any given point when someone is out sick. Say she gets a call and her son, it needs to be taken care of. She has to excuse herself. So now we have a 2-to-1 situation. Does that mean you can suspend the rules and just all of a sudden, add something to the agenda? It's the ability to have the mayor, who the community voted for these people. They put us in the majority. And again, I do not like being in that position. I wish we would agree on a lot more. And I think the olive branch for you, if it's signing that agreement, so we can all be on the same page of this thing, I think that's a beautiful thing. And trying to build bridges here. But when I see someone look at me straight in the eye and say, this is about trust, and then you guys go and take the action you did, we have to put something in place to protect it. And that's all I'll say about it.
Well, if you're finished, I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's it.
You see a motion as a big problem, and us having a majority in one meeting is a problem. And I guess the way I see it, and the deep thing aside, one thing I can do, and I wish you could, because you're taking this very personally, but what I
It's
can
not
do
personal.
is say, all right, that's there for the village, it has nothing to do with me. You know, I may not even live here by the time something is on that corner, I don't know. But I'm here to make decisions for the village. Now, as far as the majority thing, I don't understand why it's so offensive that an action might be taken. The one meeting we have a majority, an action that we want to take. Ron wanted this to happen. He wanted to see someone qualified appointed. And you're very offended that it happened at one meeting out of 15.
I'm extremely offended.
Well,
Because this was not.
This is my
spur of the
moment.
bit.
This is my
But
moment.
you
It's
thought-
my moment, Nick.
Well, it could be any moment you want.
I'm the one talking.
You know, but
I'm
I
talking
like
to
to
Joe
talk
right
about
now.
it,
You can be
yeah.
as offended as you want, Nick.
Well,
We'll let you speak.
For
Go
the
ahead, let him talk.
for the first meeting, you guys came in with your majority and appointed a bunch of people to the planning board, yes? You did.
There were
And it was
applications.
an item you added to the agenda.
Yeah, just
You-
be frank and honest if
Yeah,
if
just be
someone's
honest
asking a
about it,
question.
I mean, come on.
We all were there.
Yeah. so
We all
you
were there.
also-
We all were there.
You also suspended the rules and added a closed session to fire Mary. Then you fast forward to the next meeting and
Right.
the list just goes on. But now in preparation for Nick's departure on vacation, you started playing nicer, which was interesting, but it is what it is. But for several meetings, you tried to add a supermajority. You tried to add a rule and procedure requiring a supermajority vote for all items. Understand what that is saying to the voters, these two votes don't count because you require a supermajority. This is just another example of that, giving yourself the vote power, saying that if someone goes on vacation on the majority, which is you three, that we can't do anything.
I have
You're
to admit,
just squashing
I don't
them.
understand that logic either.
It's still a democracy, Joe, and it's ironic that we would talk about the Constitution because our charter is our Constitution. And Nick, you can be as offended as you want, but you took the action. But the other person that we talked about, you don't like that person either. So what do you expect us to do? Wait till someone you love
I
is
don't
available?
expect that you had, I mean, this was not a spur of the moment thing, this was planned. I mean, Ron never mentioned ever about that he was gonna, when he was gonna resign. When we
You
knew
haven't
his-
talked
we
to
knew his house
Ron
was
in
on.
months.
Yeah, well, he didn't bring it up to the council. All of a sudden, we met 4 days before, and he didn't mention anything about this.
I don't know anything.
I
about
leave,
it.
which everybody
Hold on.
knows, was coming for 2 or 3 months, and 4 days later, all of a sudden, he's resigning, and this is all going on.
It was still a legal
I mean,
motion. A legal
Well,
motion.
that's gonna be
with
decided,
a
because it
majority.
wasn't a legal motion. I don't believe it was a legal motion, but
It's a legal
anytime
motion.
we suspended the rules in the past, we had 5 council members here, the whole council. You need 2/3 of the entire
Membership.
council. You didn't have 2/3 of the entire council, because I wasn't here. To suspend the rules, you require 2/3 of the entire council.
Yeah.
Which
Read the rules.
means, with me not being here, 2 to 1 is not entire council. You didn't have the right to do that. And that will be decided in court.
Yeah.
But it's just, the
But you-
way it was done, to me, was underhanded and completely.
So is that
you
why
know,
you were willing to spend village funds to push Mary out? I mean, is it because of the principle? I mean, be honest for a
How are we
moment.
spending village funds?
You're hiring an attorney to fight her appointment.
No, she sued
filed
us.
against us.
Yeah.
Did you,
No,
did
no,
you
no,
figure
no,
out
no,
what
no, no,
happened?
No, no, hold up.
You filed a complaint
Wrong.
against us.
Wrong. What
Oh,
happened
oh,
was.
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
You vacated my seat.
No.
I'm gonna say it again, you unlawfully,
No, we
one
didn't.
28-6, you
So
unlawfully
whatever number.
vacated the seat. Everything else, you guys can talk about whatever you want, I get that, that's fine. But you cannot just, it was done, and we had, number one, I wrote you all and I said, look, I know how you feel about it, but I did indicate that the statute said that I lawfully hold the seat. Then there was Christine, who was an attorney, who wrote,
He also said, until you all file quo warranto, which you're totally entitled to do, she lawfully holds the seat. On June 22nd, you got another attorney letter that said, great, you want to fight it? If you fight it, I'm fine with that. If I don't hold it, no problem. I will easily step down. But you are told now for the third time that I lawfully hold the seat until you file a quo warranto and challenge the title, right? So for you to have vacated my seat first with cops in front of 50 some odd people,
It wasn't with cops.
okay? Listen, we were all there.
I know, but it's.
Okay, so
If
there-
you're just interrupting it, there is a statute for
it matters
that.
to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it doesn't matter to you, but it matters to me. When my children are crying and wondering whether I'm gonna come home that night, it matters. So, all that said, I understand that there's that issue. I understand all the other issues, but in the meantime, there was an unlawful action taken, and that's why I filed a complaint. The subcommittee let me make sure that you understand, because I remember, the subcommittee you all put together to strategize and or evade public meetings, special meetings, was before I ever lodged a complaint. The vacation of my seat
And that's important,
unlawfully.
because I heard that someone is out there saying that
Of course.
they had to do
The
the subcommittees
spinmeisters.
first.
And then on top of that,
We tend to
then
take
you
advice from our
vacated my
attorneys.
seat and were ready to have me physically removed. When all you could have done is taken the June 22nd letter and said, look, we're gonna fight this. And I would have said, like I said in the note, no problem, I understand. Instead, you took it to the point where I then had to defend it legally. So this idea that somehow I took everyone to court without understanding what you did first that was unlawful, that's a spin I won't digest.
Well, we're gonna sit here and agree to disagree the whole
I just
time,
wanna
because
talk
what
about
we're
the agenda
saying
item.
is, the whole thing was invalid. So we need to take an approach that the way you
That
went
was
about
gonna do
the
that.
appointment.
You fight the invalid.
Hold on a
If you think it's
second.
invalid, you fight
Hold
it,
on.
but you don't change
Hold
the
on.
rules and procedures.
But you changed the rules and procedures. That's our
We didn't
argument.
change them. We
That's
didn't.
our argument. Again, we're gonna agree to disagree, so it doesn't make any sense to sit here, because in the end, a judge is gonna decide it. So we took the advice from counsel, and we said, you know what? Let her sit as a de facto or a usurper. And we're letting her sit, and she's participating. So we're doing that, but we still have to address the lawsuit. And that's what this is about, if my understanding is correct.
But you
Not-
didn't,
Changing the rules and
Not
procedure
this.
does
This
not
is for you
address the
voting.
law.
you didn't
Versus
take this,
voting.
you did take the step of acknowledging until the lawsuit was filed. I had
No.
to do that, yes.
No, this,
Yes.
no, trust me, it
You
was
had just
what
10
you were.
days earlier vacated my seat with 3 sheriffs in the room. How are
Right.
you now saying, oh, all of a sudden we felt we had this great big shining of goodwill,
No,
and now we've
no, we're
decided
not.
to
We
reinstate you?
still
Makes
adamantly
no
oppose
sense.
what happened, how it happened and stuff, and we disagree.
Because
But
I
we're
thought
at
it
a
was.
point now when we have to strategize our legal efforts. You're clearly on her side, so it doesn't make any sense to have
I
a
don't
big
want
meeting,
anyone on
and
anyone's
you
side.
would have to recuse yourself anyways, and I would assume you would do the same. So, again,
Listen, just
again,
because I
hold
make
on,
a-
let me finish.
No,
We
just-
have been
just 'cause
taking,
I make
hold
a
on.
motion does not
But
mean
hold on
I
a
have to
second.
Accuse myself from anything.
So what you missed, if you would have just reached out to our own attorney, no, you chose to pick your own.
I reached out to
attorneys.
your
That's what
attorney.
No. Before all this
No,
happened,
I
when you
reached out to her
appointed,
right after the
when
motion.
you before you appointed her, she'd have been obligated to tell you the right way to go about it. But you
I would have done it
chose.
the right way.
She'd be obligated by her duty as the village
She
to
proved to me
share with
prior to
you.
that, she would just share
Quite
with
frankly,
you what I intended, the motion I intended
I
to
think
make.
more people should be spending
Okay,
their
so
own money.
you're
this point.
you're
She-
basically admitting
she
that
has not
this
equally
was a
represented
sneaky
me
kind
in
of play.
months.
No,
The
that's
town
not.
attorney
She
does
doesn't
not-
represent you.
She represents the whole council.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. And
But-
that's how we've approached this whole thing.
Well, no, it's all mostly one-on-one with you two and the attorney.
I don't
And
agree.
now you've actually
So-
forced me out completely with a subcommittee? What the hell?
I'm out of it. I don't even know what they're talking
Come
about.
on.
I have not, have I been in that meeting? How many meetings have you had?
We're
We're
off
on the
topic.
resolution. Does
Yeah,
someone have a
this
motion?
is- We're totally off topic.
Yeah,
Let's get
can
back
we go
here.
back to, I agree, let's go back to that.
But you're suggesting changing the charter
Mm-hmm.
because you're mad, okay, because a motion was made while you were gone. I'm sorry your feelings are hurt, but get over it. It happens, right? I've been able to work with you guys for months, despite what Joe did the first meeting. That was horrible what he did,
No.
right? And I objected then, and it's still a problem for me, but I managed to
Again,
move along.
you point
with
at me,
village
there were
business.
two other people that made the decision. You point at me as I'm the decision maker for all this stuff, and I resent that, because there are two
You
other
did all the
individuals.
talking at the meeting, John.
But
If
you know, sometimes
if
you have a
they did all
speaker on the
talking-
hat, but sometimes you have someone step up and speak what we plan to do, okay? So
If you're gonna
the
be the
fact
front
is,
man, you're the one I'm gonna address.
that's fine, but don't make it look like I'm the only one that made this decision,
So the three
please.
of them made those decisions.
Absolutely,
That's
the
fine.
majority, that the public voted us in. Anyways, we're off subject.
Can I ask you a
Um,
question?
But this is a bad decision right here.
That's fine.
So I
That's
have.
fine. It's
Well, you know,
fine to
that's,
make a
no,
bad
no,
decision.
no, that's fine that you think that way. We don't think that way. We
We-
actually are trying to protect the village in this.
From whom?
Protect the village from basically,
Democracy?
No, the minority basically taking over at any given point.
So the minority
Because
had
that's
no
what would
voice.
happen in the end. If
Okay,
in the
you're
end,
okay with the
if in
minority
the
having a
end,
voice.
minority could eventually just usurp in any meeting, you could just add.
So they could do what you do every time.
What do you mean?
There was just a meeting.
We're talking about, we're
There was a
discussing
meeting
it right
2 weeks
now.
ago when you
Right.
added 3-4 things to the beginning of the
Yeah.
agenda, but apparently the rules didn't matter at that point.
And
No, I said we
you
try to
actually-
get everything out to 48 hours before. Specifically, we were trying to talk
So
about
that
it.
didn't get delivered to my house.
We're-
No, Kevin.
Hold on.
We're talking about items
Okay, forget it.
that didn't get delivered to my house.
July
Don't
10th.
talk to
So-
me like that.
Don't interrupt me.
Don't talk,
You're a
you're
council
off,
person
you're off
here, just
topic.
like the rest of
Well,
them.
You
Yeah,
are
don't
off
talk
topic.
to
You
me
are
like
off
that.
topic. So
You
we're
said
we're
48
back to
hours.
this.
I was pointing out, I didn't get this agenda till yesterday.
Excuse me, I put your agenda in there on Friday.
The
On my
revised-
way
revised
home,
one.
the very first one.
The revised-
I revised that
I got the
one
first one.
when Miss
So that's-
Scoot had sent in
Added
her,
some things.
her stuff on Monday.
Whoa.
So then we revised
Excuse me,
everything and added
there
that
were
to
8
there.
And I didn't
items.
object to
I
that.
put my
Marvin, I'm
items
sorry,
on there
I wasn't
Thursday.
objecting to what you
Everyone's
did.
talking over each
Joe
other. I
said-
can't take that.
Well,
Said everything's done
let's get back on
topic.
let's get back on
I'm saying we're
topic.
talking about things that weren't done 48
But I
hours.
really, I really resent my name being pulled out for absolutely zero reason without context. I added those items to the agenda last week before it was printed and put out. Said that I would put up background reports, which by the way, no other member of this council who's ever added something to the agenda has written their own report and done their own investigation and then made sure that it was ahead of time, 4 days, 5 days ahead of
I
time.
didn't say that your items weren't added to the agenda last
Okay.
week. I said that
I'm
we
not
didn't
finished.
get your backup
I'm not
documentation until
finished.
Monday.
Excuse me.
I'm
she's
not
explaining herself.
finished. It's bad enough when council members talk over each other. It's another thing when then staff on top of it. I'm arguing. You brought up my name, I have a right to clarify. I put the things on the agenda. I made sure that everyone had background information. I tried my best. Look, my name is not Ron Salameo. It is Mary Scoot, like it or not. I made sure, out of transparency, that I provided documents. I did the research. I wanted everyone to read it to the greatest extent possible. I made sure that it was out there. But I was not the only thing on that new agenda packet. There were, I said it again, I said it earlier, 8 items were added. And I find it ironic that those 6 of those 8 items managed to shove everything that I wanted to talk about out of the way. And just for the record, I have no desire, honestly, to go back over these tiny little you said, he said, she did, you did, I resent this, I resent that. We are in public office. You go to Congress and you can watch, they will take every advantage of every rule to get done what they need to get done. And I really find that it's somewhat, I'm sorry, don't mean to offend anyone, it's somewhat childish to hang on to things and not understand, just clinically, that's the way government works. And does it mean that you should all have better rapport? Absolutely. But you know what? I don't think it starts with automatically you bring up something like this and I actually would like to know the merits of it. I don't want to know, maybe you have personal issues, you want to make sure that you always have a vote, but think about the way that comes across, because hopefully this is not what you mean. I hope. It sounds to me like what you're saying is you want to essentially change the Constitution so that you have brute force majority every single time. That's what it sounds like.
No, that's not
Okay.
it.
That's the way it comes across, because there will be days when people
people aren't here. Sometimes you'll be in the majority, sometimes
Yeah,
you won't.
right.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you
Yeah,
lose.
but to add something to agenda that we're trying to be transparent to the community and saying, and that was my whole argument about trying to get a rule in, that we're just saying, hey, appointments, hirings, firings, big deals. Appointments to a council position, big deal, okay? Let's give the public 48 hours. You talk about childish when you're hiding around the back with your husband in a car, and then you come in after they give you the go-ahead that it's okay because they made the announcement. Ron makes his announcement, which is, we didn't even use the right statute for that. So there's a number of things why we are challenging this appointment. So we're not going to...
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
challenge.
Yeah, we're gonna get back on topic.
I don't
So-
know why you
so-
spent this much money doing it when you could have just challenged it without everything else.
I don't know where we're, obviously we've been approached. We took a stand as a council, the three of us, and took a stand and made a vote that it wasn't a valid appointment, period. So we made that
I
official.
accepted that.
Then you filed the lawsuit, so now we have to respond to that. Okay, that's how it works. And the whole quote, pro
But
want
why
or
are you
whatever it
missing
is.
that you unlawfully vacated my seat? Every time you,
That is
every
not
time
what
That
you,
is-
we're talking about.
every time you, no, I'm talking to him because what he's done each time he's laid out the timeline is jump to,
Not on the
I
agenda
filed,
right now.
I'm talking now.
That's
I
fine, it's still not on
filed
the
a
agenda.
lawsuit,
Yeah.
and then therefore you have to.
Okay.
You forgot the first part.
It is what it is.
forgot the first
We're on this topic of the changing the village charter.
Okay,
so-
I'd like to make
But
a
the
motion.
charter is still not something to be changed because you're mad about or you're challenging an
Well,
appointment.
Okay,
We're not-
we should
charter.
just talk about the charter though and the merits of it, because at this point, all we're gonna do is argue about past history forever.
Yeah, so I'd like to
Exactly.
make a motion to consider resolution of intent RS-2018-08-02, amending the village charter to change mayoral procedure and set a public hearing for August 30th, 2018 at 9 a.m. at Village Hall.
Okay.
We have further discussion?
Joe, are you doing this?
Well, I thought we were just discussing it, and it kind of got sidetracked, and
Well,
so I'm
let's,
gonna call
let's
for
just
a
discuss
vote.
it and push it to the work session so we can talk about it tomorrow.
I think
Because this,
we're-
just because you went out of here quicker, Kim, is no reason to force the motion. You haven't even discussed your reasons for wanting to do this.
This is what I don't understand.
Hold on.
Sorry.
She can
I
speak.
mean, you're talking to me, so, I agree. I think that we've talked about, transparency, and that clearly hasn't happened, even though we were all supposed to be trusting each other.
I wasn't here.
I'm talking.
So you know.
I'm still talking.
Yeah.
So I think that in order to be open, that we should make this change. And that's
So you
really about
have
it.
to have a supermajority by Joe having a voting power?
The mayor,
To make it
whoever
transparent?
the
Not a
mayor may be.
So your argument for more transparency is to
that's it,
change
Robert.
the rules?
Yes, period.
This is what we're supposed to do, Kim, is talk
Okay,
about these things.
That's fine.
So talk about it.
I have, that's what I said.
You think
I'm not
it's
gonna
more
say anything
transparent
else.
to give the mayor
I think,
voting power after 20 years of the village charter being in existence? Now, I want you to hear, because you need to understand that the things you say and do will follow you for the next few years.
I understand that,
Okay.
but don't talk to me like I'm stupid. I'm tired of it. Okay?
Tired of it?
I'm tired of you
I'm
talking to me like
asking
I'm
you to
dumb.
defend your point. I never
Okay.
called you
She's
dumb.
defending it.
I didn't say you called me dumb. I said you're talking to me like I'm dumb.
I'm not even
So
talking to you
stop.
like you're dumb. I'm discussing
are.
just like I did with Nick
Okay.
and just like I did with Joe.
Okay, so can I get
Well,
to my
I think-
questions?
I think there's a motion on the table.
It doesn't matter, we haven't had further discussion.
We haven't had further discussion.
We didn't
So-
discuss this.
So, go ahead and,
Yeah, I would like to remind everybody that no matter what the issue is, that everything that is before us, per our rules of procedure, once again, which everyone likes to talk about, we are supposed to be discussing things based on the merit. So I do have sincere questions I would like to hear from all of you who are in support of this. I was hoping it was something besides politically, that there was principally, morally, some other reason why you thought that this was worthy of change.
I'll start and go on record that you guys, and when we were on good terms, let's call it, back then when Ron and all that, and you guys made a motion to move my term to 4 years. I'm the one that fought that. because I didn't think that was right, because I think sometimes.
Now we're on
commu-
topic.
No, I'm just saying that.
But you're the one that
so-
brought it
Trying my
up.
best to
But,
bring
but,
it down to
but,
a
so,
You're the
so,
one that asked us to consider it.
I know, so as we talk about this thing, I want to make it clear on my point is that there are gonna be times that I don't wanna be surprised by any council, whether it's in my favor or out of my favor. I don't wanna be walking into a meeting not knowing at any given point that especially when you have a 2-2 council like we seem to have right now, and this is my argument for it, 2-2 council at any given point, if Nick has to excuse himself or Kim, then that gives the advantage to the thing where they can suspend the rules in the middle of, after you just approved the agenda, you suspend the rules, and then you don't have the vote, and then you think you just have everything in place, and it changes because it's unfair and not transparent to the public. Because it was unfair to the public that we didn't announce.
You're
We did.
describing
Excuse
exactly
me.
what you've
Excuse
done.
me.
You've done the exact same thing.
No. It's unfair
You
to the
haven't?
public. No, we've changed that since we've gotten office.
Since you've made your changes.
Since we've made
Since
no,
you made
that
your
was the rules. No, we
Please.
changed the rules.
Point of order.
We
Point of order.
excuse me,
Can
Mary.
we go- No, I can make that, I
no.
can make that motion at any time, check the rules.
Fine.
Point of order. I would like us to return back to the agenda, please.
Which I am talking. You asked a question. What I am defending my point.
I think
And that's all
it
I'm
went
saying,
went
okay?
somewhere
So
else.
it is something that I don't want at any given point, and this may protect you in 2 years. If you get the majority and then someone gets called away, then that means the 2 people there, it's not fair to the public, because if they're looking at the agenda saying, oh, that's nothing's on the agenda that interests me, I'm not gonna go, and then all of a sudden, the next day they find out a contract was signed that wasn't on the agenda. Is that transparent?
You mean like when you guys made an offer on the Reasons House?
No,
That
we didn't
wasn't
make
on
an
the
offer on
agenda.
that. We didn't make an offer.
Yes, last time, 2 months ago.
God.
Yes,
No,
you did.
Robert,
Why wasn't
You should maybe start showing up at meetings. You should maybe start showing up at meetings.
but
There was
hold
no offer made.
But you know
So,
what? You
please.
cannot sit here, anyone, and say that you've never ever added an item to the agenda. No, now it's not my turn.
I didn't say anything.
I'm not good with this idea that anyone trying to purport the idea that they are so interested in transparency and the public's interest, and yet, like I said, only on July 10th, I walked into the meeting and you had added 2 or 3 items. I don't complain. That's the nature of business. Maybe
They
I'm
did it
just,
at the July meeting?
yes, July 10th.
It was done
Oh,
48
sorry,
hours in
July
advance.
30th. No, July
July
30th,
30th.
30th or 31st.
It was done 48 hours in
Yeah.
advance. I
Yeah.
tried to be a stickler on that.
No,
and
you,
yeah,
you
I
had them
have.
at the meeting.
Again.
You guys have.
So you go up on your tangent, but you just did it on the
July 31st,
31st.
you just added out, would you like me to read the motions to
No,
you?
you
This
know.
is where you decided to restore my ability to recognize me as a de facto officer. That was not on the agenda. You
Right.
also decided to have to authorize the attorney to pursue, no, let me finish.
I didn't say anything.
Okay, I know, but
I
you're right.
can shake my head or say no.
Yes, you can. So, and you also decided to go ahead and have a second attorney, have this attorney decide whether the second attorney would litigate. I have no problems with that. I just want to say that. But you cannot then sit and say, I am worried about public transparency when you just did it 2 weeks ago. So let's just get off our high horses here for a minute, and let's just move forward the best way we possibly can.
In the end, there's ways of circumstantial things that happen
You're
that
right.
you have to do that and stuff. And given
I agree.
the importance of this issue being legal is why I would say we probably did it. But in general, if you go back to January all the way through, once we got the rules and procedures, we have rarely or not have really added anything
You've
without
tried.
the 48 no's.
You've
No,
tried.
no.
Right, can I
Go ahead,
just-
Nick. I'm going to recognize Nick now at this
I
point.
I
mean,
still haven't asked asked
You-
her.
you asked the
Still
question.
has- She still has the
No,
table with
I
her
still
questions.
I'm
No, you-
trying.
You took over, but she was,
Let her go.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm losing track of who's the question.
Sorry.
I thought we were
I just
answering,
wanted to
each of
know-
us answering the question.
Yes, I would like, I
So I
just
thought
wanted
that's what
to
he was
make
gonna
sure.
do.
Oh, I don't know what it.
Well, you asked the question for all of us, and then I answered, and then now it's Nick's turn.
Okay.
I mean, just in my reason of what is supporting this is a couple of reasons. I mean, having sat as mayor for 3 years.
supporting the mayor's vote. I just wanted to clear that.
Supporting the mayor's vote. Having sat as mayor for 3 years on this council. I always felt like it was kind of a useless position because you really only voted in a tie and you really didn't, so a lot of times I just felt like, you're sitting there with no real voice, you have no input and everything, so I always felt that was a problem. But I mean, as far as this here, I mean, the mayor really only, if it's 2-2, the mayor's gonna always be the deciding vote. If the mayor votes and the other one's 3-2, and it goes the other way, then it doesn't matter anyway, his vote.
Thanks, thank
But
you. Yeah,
so I don't see where this is any kind of, doing this makes any kind of terrible thing out of it, and the only thing it does do is, again, it sort of has the ability to stop a 2-1 kind of thing, where, somebody gets, either side gets the advantage in whatever side the mayor's on, or again, it gives the ability to not have things run through at a on a 2-1 thing where, I don't know, it's not explained it right, but anyway, I don't see where it's that much of a difference, except, like I said, if you're looking to try and take advantage of a 2-1 vote.
Can I ask you one question about the take advantage?
Yeah.
And you can finish this question. If you all normally have the majority, the minority having the ability to make a change that maybe they want to make, how is that taking advantage? When you normally, the majority of the time, have the majority and have the majority voting power and have made a number of changes in the last 8 months, how is, I'm just,
okay,
let's pretend we're a real democracy here at the table.
Let's pretend like we said.
Let's pretend
The people elected us. So if they elected the three people that have the same thing, that's the majority of the votes. Majority of people wanted them 3 people.
I agree.
Now when you go 2-1, it sort of takes the 3 people that had the public behind them, and now it moves it.
But
So
the issues have
it's,
changed on different elections, so I would argue that
Well, but
you're on your last year of your term, Kim's on her first year of a new 4-year term.
Right.
Different people elected you folks. There were different issues at hand. So right now, the majority, I had the most votes at the last election out of all of us. Those people cared about that corner property. This is the people I talked to. They cared about that corner property. They cared about real transparency, not just the talk about transparency. They cared about traffic, right? And they cared about overdevelopment. And they cared about all that, okay? So when Ron and I discussed who we could appoint as a replacement, there were some names, but the name that kept coming to the top was the one that had, how many years with the village? 12? 13 years as planning chair, administrator, clerk, kept coming to the top. But part of that wasn't just her experience, but her ability to hold developers accountable. I expect good things out of Publix, but guess what?
That scares people.
It scares a lot of people, it scares a lot of voters. She's the one that was here the whole time Publix was coming up, right? She's the one that can keep them honest. And again, I don't mean that in a bad way, but she can keep them honest. When I ask you guys, why not Mary? The reason I'm asking that is, you really gotta ask yourself, why not Mary? Why is Mary, let's forget for a minute how she was appointed, but why not Mary? I say, all the answers come back to it should be Mary. The people that would take advantage of the village can't do it with someone like this.
your
You're not
opinion.
gonna see it that way.
It's your
Well,
opinion.
it circles me back to my point. The people that voted for me care about the things
Right.
that she cares about. So when Nick says, I'm with Nick right now,
Right, I
I understand
understand.
what he's saying.
I'm shaking my head and I didn't
All
say
I'm-
anything.
All I'm saying to you, Nick, is I get what you're saying, that 2-1, it could sound like voters aren't being represented, but these two are being represented by the same voters. I would argue that maybe you 3 are represented by the same voters, I don't know. But you were elected 2 years prior for different issues,
Well,
different people.
Okay, so Ron, when he made his statement, he said, he's responding to his voters. Now, his voters were the same voters that voted for me and Joe.
Right.
Right.
Joe had more votes than he did. Ron beat me by about 3 votes. So where are his voters, not our voters, where did he get his voters?
So use that
Something's
argument.
Well, his
But it was him,
constituents
right?
So,
base changed. Ron was out pumping the pavement, just like you guys did during the election, right? He was out pumping the pavement for me and.
We all said, again, it
For
was,
me and Mark.
we're clouding it.
Something changed.
So he
obviously,
was talking to a
between
lot of people,
And-
right? And yes, your and Ron's opinions on things clearly changed. You guys were great friends, now you're not, that's between you two. But Ron's ideology matched with the voters from the last election, the ones he talked to. And, you know, he same memo you guys had when you guys were a team. You guys went and knocked on doors, so did Ron. They all were thinking about the same issues, this corner property, the village hall, the roads being done. They
I
don't
think
want
the
to see a
corner
bunch
property was really in play back then, just so you know.
during this election.
Oh, this last election, okay.
but
And that's where Mary comes in. She keeps people accountable. She has a history. You've heard her talk. She's about as organized and intelligent as they come. She holds us all accountable. I think she's a little too lenient on the group personally, because she's got a short-term memory when it comes to the stuff that Joe and I may argue about. She doesn't care about that stuff. She cares about what's in front of her. So
let's get back to him. He was answering your question, and he just feels
yeah, I
that,
didn't mean to take all
okay,
the time.
he was,
Go
he
ahead.
feels that,
the issues, I mean, when we campaigned, it was the traffic, it was the development, it was, you know, it was all them things. The only thing that maybe we didn't talk about, we talked about town hall too, even back then, we talked about we wanted
He
a town
did,
hall.
yeah.
So, nothing really changed.
To him it did though,
Well,
right? Where Ron was
I
concerned,
mean,
he felt
I
that.
mean, I'd like to say that I probably have, maybe not Planning and Anthony's thing, but, you know, I have never been anyone to really go with development or, you know, make it easy on developers, and I know we had a lot of conversations with Publix where I
Absolutely.
was a little bit against it, you know, it was not what you guys were
Not
doing
a
away.
little bit.
You
You were
guys
like,
giving
no,
stuff
I'm
away.
not voting.
You know, so I mean,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of these things, so I just don't see where the,
And that's why I come back to what Ron felt, right? And so Ron felt and was no longer sure that he would have someone here to represent him. And listen, I'm removing judgment, I'm just telling you what his thought was. That he was in a position where he felt like the least I could do is try to leave one remnant of me behind. He didn't know where you were, he didn't know where Joe was. Yes, you guys ran together, there was obviously a split, nobody really seemed to understand. And he felt that was the least he could do, was try to make sure that his voters, the way he saw it, were taken care of.
and
That
then
was-
my argument to that would be, then why not discuss that in a deliberation? Because keep in mind, I don't even vote. It's the 3 councilmen that were left to talk it out about who was the next one. But no, you left it up to one person to make that choice. And he makes that choice, and we thought, wow, what did we do for you? When the last resignation, we did what was right. We did what was
You
transparent.
didn't do it for me, you did it for the village.
Right,
You interviewed 7 people.
right,
Yeah, that was your-
exactly.
that was
That's
your
how it's
choice,
always
but
been.
it
No,
wasn't-
it's how it's always been
No,
done.
no.
Hold
There's
on,
no
I'm
rule of
speaking.
procedure for that.
Hold on, I'm speaking.
No, that
And
was a
okay.
one-time deal.
It wasn't a one-time deal.
Yeah, it was.
I'm
You
telling
never
you,
before interviewed-
you can revert back to Robert's Rules of Procedure and how
Yeah,
things
no,
are
it's
done
not. I have to
and
be
stuff.
honest.
I will
For
tell
10 years,
you,
but
all I'm saying
you're saying
is,
it wasn't.
please,
You can't just lie.
please, I'm speaking. All I'm saying is,
Point of
we
information
were,
then.
we were just trying to be transparent and do it the way we've always done it. And especially what really got me, this is just one thing, it says, this is about trust. And we were specifically on point of appointing, hiring, firing, because I didn't like that. I didn't like not giving the public notice if we were going to let go of someone or add someone
But you
to it
did.
or appoint. We did at the very first meeting. I agree. I did, because we believed it had to be done.
That was only
Okay.
months ago.
But you
Okay,
see, do you
but
understand?
since then we've changed it.
Can
So
I
we're
have
off. No,
chance
because
for a
we're off
Well,
topic
you can't then
again.
talk what you
But-
want
but-
on topic
but-
and then not let everyone else
But at
talk.
the end of the day, we're trying to get through this resolution. You asked the question, we tried to
I know
answer
what
it
we're
to you.
trying
So
to
do
do.
you have anything else?
But you can't just give yourself license and then cut someone off after that.
That's all right. Do you have anything else?
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that, yes, that you're exactly right, but it feels that each time that you are defending an anomaly in the rules of procedure, whether sometimes there's an emergency, like the legal issue you have to take care of, right? Yes, I get that. I'm not going to argue with that. Sometimes there's something you really feel is best, like terminating the administrator. You needed to do it that night. I get that. I've accepted that. What I'm asking then of all of you is, if other people can accept their losses, why is it so difficult to then accept losses on the other side? Because what I'm hearing is you're very, 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 very much want rules and procedures to be consistent, but when you are in a position where it's not going to be consistent, there's a good reason for it. Now all of a sudden there's a good reason. And I think that's very unrealistic.
We're just trying to get some sort of stability. In my view, we're trying some sort of stability
What you call
that we can.
stability, I
Hold
call
on a second,
fashion.
please, Robert.
It's fashion.
Please, Robert. No, it isn't. Okay, I'm answering your question. The stability comes in when we form this, and that was my goal. We've talked about that since January meeting, when we officially had our first full meeting about not adding things to agenda. And then I specifically got into stuff, and then the whole trust thing. Even the first meeting, she offered you an olive branch, and then we go home to find. But hold on a second.
She never
we come
met
home.
with me. She never reached.
No. She gave you an olive branch in the first
right
meeting. So
there.
it is
She can talk for
trust. It
herself.
comes down to trust. And if I can walk into a meeting and I can't trust that, that this agenda is not going to change dramatically, then I'm fearful of actually going into a meeting, because I don't know what the heck I'm gonna get.
But it just changed the last two meetings, and I don't mind, but it happened.
But it is majority rule, 2/3 ruled on it, and that's where I think
So
the
then breaking the rules
invalid
is
is.
okay.
No, it didn't break the rules.
Joe, you described
We didn't break. We were all there, Mary. We were all there at the
But you're
meeting.
saying you want everyone to add it, right?
No, we're just saying.
You want everything to be
no.
added 24 hours
All
or
right.
48 hours
We're
ahead of
gonna-
time, but because the majority was there, it was okay.
No.
She had a good point, Joe, that the moment you do or don't get what you want to change the rules. It really
That's not
comes
true.
down to that.
That's absolutely not true. But that's your opinion. So thank you for that. Anything else?
Can I ask a question then
Sure.
on this whole thing, since trust seems to be coming up? Have I done something? I mean, I might not be here long, I totally accept that, but have I done something in the last while since I've been here to make you all second guess the trust for me? I didn't have to lay out my whole game plan right there in front of all of you this week, but I did.
And for the record, you guys somebody made changes to the agenda based on the information she handed in, which is, whatever, it is what it
Not
is.
sure what you're referring to, but I'm not going to comment on that. So I just
No, well, you don't have to, but I'm just, is anyone, if someone would
Why wouldn't you
tell me.
comment on it?
because
It's a
I'm
fair
not going to
question.
comment on it. Some of it could be personnel related that I don't want to get into and risk being sued for that and stuff. So there could be, it could be anything. So I'm just not going to
I
comment on
wouldn't
it.
see it for an open deliberation or question, but you don't have
But
to.
it is. I'm just choosing not to go into any reasons. Just kind of like the reason we had in the beginning. We're going in a different direction.
So,
stuff, so.
Kenneth, do you have reasons why that you feel this thing is principally and morally the right thing to do?
I think it protects the village.
Changing the rules and procedures does not.
Doesn't change the rules and
protect it.
procedures. It's
Yes,
just
it
changing a charter. And to Nick's point is, you sit here anyways, and it's really 3 votes. If 3 of you
Yeah, but
vote,
he
does it
gave
really
those
matter?
points, And you gave your points.
Right. But I'm tagging on what he said, that he made a point about, does it really matter? So it's just,
Well, Nick, it matters in principle. We can disagree on a lot of things. You disagree with Ron's desire to appoint Mary, and I made the motion because he couldn't. And you disagree with that. I get it. And I've reached out to you a couple times to try and talk to you.
And I'm not saying, I don't agree with the way it was done, certainly.
But is
It
that a
doesn't matter
reason?
who it was, it could have been anybody.
Is that a reason to change the rules?
You mean the Constitution or the Charter?
The charter, is that a reason to change the charter? I mean, you guys did something, I hated that first meeting, and it took a couple meetings, but I got over it. I didn't suggest we change the charter. I didn't conspire, nothing.
If it's gonna, in my view, if it's gonna protect the village and stuff, because
saying it
I.
protects the
Yes,
village.
it does,
protects
because
your
it's
idea of the
it's
village.
transparency. Our goal is to get to where we're all, within 48 hours, we're putting everything on here. I mean, I asked staff, I asked them specifically, are we within that 48-hour window? Because I want it to be on, everything we added was within the 48-hour window, right? And some of those discussions, they didn't get a chance to talk about. We've been talking about this, about changing the whole charter where you get away from, and you have a town manager rather than, where we don't get involved in the hiring and firing of staff and stuff. Nick has brought that up, not me. And
Is that on the agenda?
no, but I'm saying is, as we talk about this and we evolve to what's best for the village is what I'm looking out for. What I don't want is at any given point, anyone, and this goes for years down the road, if someone has to be excused, then in the middle of a meeting to be able to change and add something is frightening to me. That's not democracy to me, because it's not on the agenda and they go ahead and just do that. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Do you have any comments about how you went? Nick, anything else? Okay.
But you guys are okay with how this looks to the public?
Absolutely.
So the next,
Well, I mean, no, let's just be frank,
I
because.
mean, obviously, if we vote for it, then obviously we all have it.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we'll
well,
say it in a vote. We're ready to
Say it.
vote.
so on
public
that,
hearing on
so
it.
on that,
Well, there'd be a public hearing before the public hearing, because I think everyone, if we're gonna be transparent, we throw it all out on the table. We have a big meeting prior to the public hearing, so people at least have time to do some research. So if you're gonna do it, I recommend that we have a large meeting, a large.
You have a right to do that through, to protest it, right?
so what you're saying is that you're okay taking more power than the power that the people
Now
granted
you're
you?
putting words in my mouth.
I'm
No.
stuck-
All I'm saying is it's giving the mayor ability to vote. You know, I campaign just as hard as any one of you guys out there, and a lot of people like the ideas that I have and stuff, just as many as you, probably more. And guess what?
Well,
they think it's kind of silly that I don't get, and that they took that away, that I don't get to vote.
But they
and stuff.
voted with you on that premise, correct? They voted for you with the mayor, and you ran for
Right.
mayor knowing that you would only vote.
Right, and then
time.
when you see, usurping of power and you're taking, things, or you're basically taking an agenda and creating your own agenda when it's not really the whole body that wants that.
Okay, so.
So let's talk about it
Yes,
as a
let's
whole
talk about
body
that.
always.
So who put this
So-
on the
so
agenda
no.
tonight?
So-
Because everything that comes in
Well,
front of
we've
the
been
agenda-
talking about this
We
for a
talked
long,
about the whole
yeah,
body?
we've
Yeah.
talked about it for a long time, and
Did
this
you guys
is,
talk about this before?
as we
Yeah,
discuss
we've never
our
talked about
avenues.
it before.
We've never,
Okay.
But
Well-
you bring up a
I've
good
read all the
point.
minutes, I've never seen it.
You bring up a good point. Nick,
We
there
talked
was
about
a,
it
there was a
February 26th,
forum,
we did.
there was a forum.
The only thing I saw was two-year versus a four-year term. I've never seen giving the mayor the right to vote on any agenda
It's
in the
never
last
been on
year.
there.
You
Are you
remove
saying
my
it's not on
ability
there?
to.
Are you
It
saying
was
we've
a
talked about this
discussion,
topic
we
before?
talked about this on February 26, 2018, the various powers of mayor.
That was with the rules of
give him
procedure, not
voting
changing the charter.
No, we talked about what, you can have special legislation or you can change the charter. I had a memo on all of it, all of you got a copy.
That's not the same as a discussion and
And if
deliberation.
you
There was a
remember, and if
discussion
you
about
remember,
it.
there was
I
a time
remember.
where you
Listen,
guys were looking,
listen.
wait, hold on a second, I have the floor. There was a
about the rules and
time
the law.
when you guys were trying to appoint, I believe it was Miss Scoot at the time. And then I announced that I took a vote, and Brian looked at me and said, well, you don't get the vote. And I actually pulled out the rules and said, yes, I do. You guys took immediate action to take that vote away from me. And that was just for appointments. What's the difference, Robert? If you guys
That
can
was to
say,
make it
no, the
consistent.
following meeting, it was on to be voted that I was going to be, and I didn't talk to Nick, and Nick was like, well, the mayor really never votes. I mean, so I was like, okay, fine, if that's what they want to do. But that's what you did. You took this, you did the same thing and took my powers that I've had that I got voted on.
Acting like a child.
No, that I got voted on that allowed me to vote. And then because I voted and you didn't like that I blocked that appointment.
Actually,
Hold on a second.
You and I were friends
Excuse
at the
me,
time.
Robert.
I
Please,
liked it.
Robert.
You and I were, you can't gather my
I'm gabbing because you're interrupting
You and I-
me. You're interrupting me,
Point of
Robert.
information,
Please.
correction, the point of information.
So all I'm saying is that you guys did the same thing back then when you took that power away from me. That, and you know what? At the end of the day, I didn't get the vote. So then we talked about bringing that back on. Now we're talking about allowing me to
That's the position you
vote.
ran for.
Nick,
But you took it away from me.
I
They
didn't
took
take
it,
anything.
but they took it away from me. So explain that.
Nick, I'll explain it. Nick, you also voted on that consistency. That's all we were doing, was trying to make it consistent. And when Joe took that action, at that time, I actually agreed with him, but we still, it pointed out a flaw in the rules of procedure, and we made it consistent. You were a yes vote on it. I remember that. But more importantly, do you remember a form that you guys, when you were mayor, put together where it summarized the mayor's duties? I saw it the other day. It was at the council retreat in February. Under the rules and procedures, there's a one-page document that was made either prior to your mayoral term or during, because it had your signature line on it, and it sort of summarized the mayor's duties. Do you remember that document? That might have even been a resolution.
Yeah, it was a resolution.
It was an actual resolution, and it summarized the mayor's duties, which at some point, Joe must have seen in, this is your third year term. I think he signed it. And it summarized the duties, and one of them was to put the agenda together. And Joe, you mentioned agenda. This entire year, you've not called me once to ask me if I want to add anything to the agenda.
I'm afraid you're going to take me. I'll be honest with you. I'm afraid you're going to
You
take
shouldn't
me.
lie then if you don't want to.
But you're going to take me.
You can't lie.
I'm afraid you're going to take me. That's why we don't talk,
Guys, we're
Robert.
not resolving.
It's very
we have to
simple.
Resolve things.
There's something you
If he's
should know
saying
that's
something,
really important, Joe. That
What's
you
the
That's fine.
solution?
I need to tell him something that I haven't said out loud, and I'm going to say it out loud now. You're so offended by that tape. One, it was only to support the fact that you were lying about who you were meeting with. Two, this is important, you need to know
Lying
this.
about who
You
was
need to
meeting
know
with.
this
See, this
once
is
and
what
for
it is.
all, Joe. I've been asked for other copies, okay? And I've said no. Because there's a lot more on there that I never want to hurt you personally. Look at me in the eye.
You know what? It's,
I
you're
never-
lying to me.
I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, there's just nothing I've said. Put them out. I'm telling you right now. Put all the tapes out
I didn't say there was something
in
you
completion.
said. I
In
didn't say
completion,
there
put them all out. Anything I say to any one of you in private, in public, I'd be proud to say out loud.
Then why
What
are you
I'm saying
talking in
is
tape?
because you will take something out of context. My own neighbor looked at me and said, "We got tapes in you." The funny thing is, you didn't say anything bad. We appreciated what you said in that tape, but it was just a tape, and I'm like, he's taping me. And then you admit in a public session that you tape people. So guess what? That conversation of you and I, it's not going to happen.
But you can email.
Why are we all?
Yeah, or we could sit down and have a meeting together with a staff person.
I'm just saying.
Happy to do it.
It's been a year. Why haven't we
Well,
done that?
you haven't invited me to do it. If you
Well,
want to talk about
this is my
something,
point,
invite me.
Joe. Well,
Wednesday morning.
I did reach out to you after the election, but this is my point of that summarization of mayoral duties. You're supposed to call us and ask about agenda items. So you're concerned about this 48-hour notice, but you've never once approached me or Ron about the agenda. Hey, guys, is there anything important do you want to talk about? Here's what we have on the list. Instead, we get it a few days before the meeting, which, by the way, our rules and procedures, I think, say at least 10 days. And this is not against you, Barbara, not at all, because we never follow that rule. It's
The
even
agenda
be
is 5. for the
It's
council.
5 days.
5 days.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was my mistake. I
Items,
thought it was 10 days.
You know, the work product, yes.
But the summary
5 days.
of your duties is supposed to be to build consensus with council, which you don't try to do. It's supposed to be to put together an agenda with council, which you don't do. But what you're focused on now is the voting power. Do you remember that letter, Nick? I mean, you signed it.
I guess what I'm asking, and on that point, Robert is saying, is there not another way to make sure that everybody is heard?
Absolutely.
Without just like brute force?
Yeah, you can just present it to the, if you want to meet with me and stuff, I leave Wednesday mornings open to meet. And if you want to add something to the agenda, you did that with Christina. She added it to the agenda. We weren't prepared to talk about it. Yeah, you did. So it got on there. The bow thing, I think, was you were supposed to talk about it. I don't know if it was complete, but the bottom line is, a lot of these things that, some are just because of the situation we're in, that we had to add some of these things, and you'll find out in the next one why we're doing doing what we're doing because of what we learned, and some things we learn on the go and stuff. And I made it clear with her, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we wanted it 48 hours to give the community that ability to do. But we've tried to adhere to the 48-hour notice on anything, adding things to the agenda.
Recently.
At times. Now, the kicker comes in where if you have 2/3, because you are going to add, most agenda changes are usually just to remove. Adding things to the agenda really is not appropriate because it doesn't give the community. But there are going to be times that we have to add things to the agenda. And that's going to happen, given the circumstances. So you're never going to get away from it, but I'm trying to avoid it. Now, in the middle of a meeting, doing what you did, how you did it, we just don't agree. And we can't.
You did it the same way.
But can I just?
In the first meeting where we didn't even have the rules of, we used your rules that you put in place on December. Come January, we changed it. We changed it to
I didn't make up the rules.
No. The rules were in place that you guys just lived by the rules. You added things to the agenda all the time. I watched it. What we tried to do come January, when we first had our first full meeting, we sat there
for 2 terms and you never complained.
But you're gonna do what you want because I don't really have a vote. You really don't have a vote. I understand.
First of all, the rule says, notwithstanding the 48-hour rule, any member can still ask to add something to the agenda. You have to read all the rules, not just part of it.
And that includes the 2/3 vote.
And I'm keeping myself out of it. Honestly, I get over things really fast. So at the end of the day, they were very, very hurt about what happened in December, okay? You guys were really, really hurt about what happened in July. To me, it seems squared up and even at this point. Is it not possible just to focus on what's good for the village, try to repair things and move forward? Is that totally impossible?
If
I
you're saying,
don't personally equate changing a planning board member with any council member. To me, there are 2 different levels. That's 2 different.
You also fired an administrator and you put 3 people on that board. Let's not forget what was done.
One of which has a conflict of interest.
This is a big deal for a lot of people.
You did a lot, and we're not playing tip for
Nobody
that.
came.
And some of these things, when you keep saying these things, you say them like they're fact, but they're not. Because if they were, you would. Well, just show us the conflict of interest. Where is the conflict
Which
of
conflict
interest?
of interest?
yeah, I don't even know.
Show me the conflict of interest.
The planning board member that you guys just said.
Well, I'm saying.
Oh, that you went there. I would not even talking about
I'm
that.
saying, you say things, you like to say things, you like to accuse Joe of things, you like to accuse anybody of things.
So are you
without any basis?
One second. Are you saying that you're not aware that Michael said in a planning board meeting, when we were on planning board, that he would develop downtown?
This has nothing to do.
No, he's saying that.
But again,
No, I'm
we're
asking
getting
him
way
a
off
question.
topic.
No,
But we're way off
Are you
topic.
saying that you don't remember him saying that?
I'm not aware of what he said.
You're not aware, because you were part of the
I mean, I've
council.
only heard what you
But
said.
but in all
Can we play it
defense,
now?
but in all defense,
No.
hold on a second. In all
Yes.
defense, Michael came back and said, "Look, this is not something that I wanted." Initially, he
Doesn't
said, and he
matter.
admitted,
Ethics,
and
it
I
doesn't
made
matter.
it, but
Ethics
is
it
a
does. No, he just saying that I'm interested in
You
something
can't
and
say
then
I
coming
just
back
throw shit out
and
there
stuff.
without-
Well, I think
without-
you were stretching the truth when saying there was a
No,
conflict.
he actually said
We
he would
believe-
develop the village
You didn't say
downtown.
that.
No.
Can we play it right now?
No, I'm
She has
sure.
it on her
I'm
computer.
sure she
You're
does.
talking about something that's not on the agenda.
And that's what I'm
No,
getting back
no,
to,
did
with
anyone
all
ask you?
respect.
And there's a motion
Excuse
on the
me,
table.
Robert, there's a motion on the table. She is correct.
She's the
And
attorney,
you
not
know
the
what?
council.
I have the gavel, so I'm going to tell you again because this goes back to the Ron and interrupting and all this stuff. And I try to get control, but I don't because there's so many interruptions. So I'm going to start imposing
and I were
on.
talking.
I know,
Actually,
but
I was talking to.
well, okay. So there is a motion, but we get off
Can I
on all
finish?
these tangents, and that's why we're here till 12
I
tonight.
said, can we
So.
did we not see those 2 things? Say both people, both parties, both groups were aggrieved, they were upset, they're angry, they're hurt, and that's where it was left off. and then just decide, all right, now each side's even, both sides have taken their swords and their pummels, and just move forward. I don't understand why at this point we have to keep drudging over the same things. I'm gonna say it again, I'm not Ron Salameo.
Right, I understand that. Then, you know, I mean, it's how you did it, how it happened, we don't agree with. That's all we're saying. We don't agree with
But
it.
you don't change the charter. There's a motion on the table now, we discussed this,
Nick, will you allow me?
you know, ad
You accuse
nauseam,
me
and
of
we'll keep going, we can
Yeah.
keep doing this for
You
5
accuse me of
hours.
taking
We're gonna make-
liberty with the truth. Will you let me prove it? Will you let me play the little recording?
No, because you're not gonna play all the accordion. The
I
next
can't
month that he came back and said, you know what, this is not something that.
So he did say it.
I think he did, yes, I think he did.
Well, would you just say, once and for all, you just say it out loud?
But
You
he
know-
said he was interested, you know what,
He
if
didn't
somebody
say
was, if a
interested.
developer was coming in here,
He
hey,
said
I
he would
mean.
develop it. He said he would develop it.
And yeah, he said that, and I made it clear to him, if he said that, then he
Did
said it.
or
But
did
then,
he?
what did he come back and say in the end?
When he was
That's not what
challenged.
matters.
Okay, so that doesn't matter, okay,
No,
so.
it doesn't.
he-
When someone
okay.
says, doesn't mean that he's a bad guy, but he was,
Yeah.
and I've said
Okay.
a million times
Again,
over,
we're getting
he
off,
did
we're
the
getting
right
off the
thing
subject,
by
so you
disclosing.
got to the point.
There's not a
Okay,
problem.
so I admitted he may have said it, and I don't remember hearing that because I didn't listen to the tape. But he
No,
he did go back and say that he made it clear to everyone that he was not interested in this, because that's what he does. And of course, by default, you're gonna get anyone in this community who does that, it may express interest. He happens to be on planning board, and then he says, but what really bothers me is the lies that were told about how planning board wanted him off, and that was not the case, because I interviewed planning board, and Mr. Salameo.
You did interview me.
I know I didn't, because I knew where your vote was already on that.
But again,
Yeah, but you
So-
didn't, why, so I'm not, this is what I'm
No,
talking
no,
about.
no,
So
but I
it's
knew
not
where your
worth
vote was
talking.
already.
No, but didn't you want to hear the
had that
merits?
thing.
I'm
So,
gonna keep going to the
again,
work.
we're getting off the
What's
topic.
wrong with hearing the merits? It's one thing
Yeah.
to just assume, it's another thing to actually hear
Right.
people's reasoning.
Right, so,
I
okay,
have
so we,
nothing, anyway.
all right,
All right,
we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, and I'll
Now,
be,
that's a rule of procedure, though.
It's a resolution.
it's a resolution.
resolution.
To change rules of procedure,
No, to change the charter.
Change the charter.
which is the rules of procedure is
They're two
attached.
separate things. There's the
The memo
charter.
you had the rules of procedure attached.
No,
No,
I don't think so.
So are you saying this does not require 2/3?
it does not. It's a resolution. It'll come on for public hearing for an ordinance September 11th. At that point, yes, it
So at
would.
that point, it will require 2/3.
Right. If it doesn't pass then, at the next meeting, it would take a simple majority.
So you guys are willing to go down this path, public hearing, the whole bit, and spend money to make this happen?
We're not spending money, I mean, are we spending money?
There, I
You
mean,
already spent money on the
whatever it costs to
attorney
publish something in the Inquirer Journal
Okay.
is the only cost.
and the attorney fees.
Yeah, and she wrote that, she had that up, I believe he pulled it from another
Yeah.
charter.
What is it? Can someone tell
So
me
you're not gonna bill us for it?
the petition?
No, she's gonna
I
bill.
don't do public
So it costs
notices.
money. You don't what?
Do public notices.
No, what you put together so far and any follow-up that you have to put together.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna bill you for it.
So it is costing the village money.
Any legal work costs the village money, that is
We
correct.
just voted on it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's
So we
done.
got- so you're
Whether
named-
you pass it or
I'm the
not, I'm
tiebreaker,
sending my
it
bill.
passed. Okay, on to number 2.
Those are okay.
Consider resolution RS 2018-08-03 relating to defense of village officers and employees. I'll give that to Melanie to explain.
Where are we? The resolution.
New business B.
This came up when Orndorff originally filed this lawsuit. Insurance covered that, and I think I was under the assumption that you all had a policy at that time. I believe someone thought that, and that was passed on to me. And so with this recent lawsuit that was filed, you know, I asked for the policy. It turned out that we don't have one, so I recommended that you all do adopt this. The statutes allow you to do it.
And for clarification, this is for all of us. Say if anyone were to sue the village.
Right.
And we had a situation where the insurance company would not cover us, what this is saying, if we go into defending our actions or whatever, defending the lawsuit, that it protects the councils individually, all council
And
members.
employees.
And officers, it says
And
here.
officers, employees.
Acting in your, in your
Right. So that's all that
position. And there's
resolution is. We don't
exclusions,
have
right,
it.
if you get a speeding ticket, it doesn't cover, if, you're doing something and you were intoxicated.
Illegal.
Okay,
Or,
so,
right, there's,
so first of all, I guess I have to say to be safe, allegedly, I had been harassed for 3 years on the planning board. And then it finally came to the point where I broke one day, and then turned into apparently a position where nobody in my leadership role had much sympathy for that. And gave you all the option to apologize on your behalf, said I would not, but you could. You didn't do that, led to a lawsuit. No one came to me and said, hey, Mary, you might need help with defending yourself, and investigated it then, but now the three of you are facing a civil lawsuit, and you're about to pass a resolution that ensures that your legal fees are covered by the village's tax dollar. That's what you're saying?
Acting in our role as, and making it clear, we're acting in the role of mayor, council person, and it protects all council members and all staff members.
Does
Yes,
it-
we just did
does
not
it
have,
attorney as well? Does it protect the attorney as well?
I mean.
I'm just
I don't know
curious,
what-
like who's off limits?
Does it
Everybody?
protect the attorney?
I'm not an employee, I don't think I'm an officer.
No, she wouldn't be included.
No, but
That's a no?
can I can I answer Mary's first question?
Yeah.
When, the Orndorff suit came down, you're covered by insurance.
All right, that was my next question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
you're
you
covered.
were
Are you not
covered.
covered by insurance for this?
No, for your lawsuit?
No.
No, there's no insurance, because you
There's
didn't
no
ask for
insurance.
compensatory damages.
So that, what that stirred is then, okay, so now we have to defend it as the village because she filed a suit. Okay, so now we have to defend it. And all we're saying, because she also included us in on it and stuff, is most municipalities, if not all, she assumed we had it. When she looked into it, we didn't have it. That what it's saying is the village is going to protect all officers and all council members. And we don't know what's going to happen down the road. We're not always necessarily going to be insured by the insurance company that we pay for, so we may have to go it alone. And in this
By the
case,
way-
we're going it alone.
Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you.
Go ahead.
By the way, though, there was a risk, as you know, that I would also have had to have gone alone. If I didn't have the right at least to file the countersuit, I was also in the same position, FYI. But just for the record, I just find that it's interesting at this point, the lawsuit that I had to file, and I guess I need to be careful, the lawsuit I had to file,
public
You're allowed to say what you
it
want.
allowed me to make sure and have you restore my seat, right? And hopefully restore some of the funds, as well. But it didn't have to come to that. You all could have just moved to the quo warranto and left me where I belonged per the law. I just want you to know that if, I can't say too much more than that. Let's just make
Okay.
that clear.
So we
Okay?
made it right, and you're sitting here and you're participating, and we're moving forward.
Right.
But now we have what we have,
Yeah.
and all I'm saying is, Robert, in 6 months from now, some person comes off the street and decides to sue us and is taking action against you and the village, and you. I think that you acting as a council member, you would want to be assured that you took this position. We obviously don't get paid very much for this. That you're going to be insured if the village has to fund the defense. They're going to protect staff members and council members. That's all it's saying.
So the lawsuit, but you all three acknowledge you have received a lawsuit at this point, right? So this would directly provide you all with a monetary financial benefit?
No.
Yes, it would.
No, it's something that most municipalities have. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. everyone
Because
has a
acting as a council
No.
member, you're protected.
You
She
cannot
just
does
vote,
village.
let me
She's
just
asked
say,
a question
for the
that-
ethics, you cannot vote on something.
This is
that
not
is going
specific to this case. This is for everyone going forward. This is not, it's not
How
attached to
come
a
it
file
wasn't
number.
looked at
It's not
before?
attached to a civil filing.
You never had it happen
You always
before.
had coverage. It never came up before. You had coverage from the league. Brad Klein's your attorney. There's not a question about that.
She just said though that, she just asked you if they all received the complaint.
And they're, right now, they're in the midst of a complaint, right?
They're in the midst of the complaint, which I believe is basically asking questions that we all got to answer under oath.
And we think we acted as council members, period. And that should be protected. What this says is that going forward for anything, going forward, that we need to have that be indemnified by,
Not including a lawsuit you're in right now?
no, absolutely, anything.
But you're calling it a blanket. So
It
does that
is
mean
blanket
you-
because I didn't know we didn't have it until you informed me.
Does that
Right,
mean
and I
that
didn't
you're
know until it
paying?
passed.
So right now, you're in the middle of a lawsuit, and Cox has met with the subcommittee to talk about the lawsuit with you. So they have spent money. So this does have a monetary benefit to them. But please understand,
No.
you represent the whole council, sorry.
I represent the village. This is also individuals. I have a duty to represent the village, whether or not this policy applies or not. So I would still represent the village. Whether they're named in their official capacity or individual capacity, the village was named.
Today's meeting was labeled, that closed session was,
The village was sued, Robert. Mary Scoot versus the Village of Marvin, and then it named all three of them in their official and individual capacity. It is my responsibility as village attorney to provide a defense for the village.
but you haven't answered my question.
What is your
Does it or
question?
does it not have a monetary value to them?
I don't know whether or not it does. I would assume it would. If
Let me ask you
hiring
this.
their own
Let us answer the
attorney or
question.
not, it
But-
has a monetary value to all of you, potentially.
All of us.
Potentially.
But right now, it has a monetary value to them, to those three.
So let me ask you this. Let me rephrase this another way.
Well,
So let me just.
No, I don't have
She
an answer to
answered.
no, she
Okay.
didn't.
What? She tried to answer
I
the
need a
best.
concise answer.
Let me throw another
And I
scenario
don't,
out.
you look at me like I
It
put
has
you
a
on the spot.
monetary,
It's a
it has a
question.
monetary value to all, potentially to all council members
But does it
and
have,
employees.
does it have a direct
Right now, it has no
value now?
monetary value to me. It has a monetary value to them. That's my point.
The statute allows you to do it, Robert. We're not creating this policy. 160A, 167 allows this to happen. Otherwise, why would anyone ever run for office? If they didn't have some level of protection, if
why-
they knew any decision I make, someone disagrees with,
So
they
why
can
the
sue me and
timing
it's
now?
on my
Why
dime.
Then why do we
So-
need
Because the policy doesn't
Resolution.
exist and it should exist.
Why wasn't it questioned when Mary was sued?
Because insurance
covered.
covered.
She was covered. There's
It
a
was
difference.
insurance
She's been spending
coverage.
her own money.
That's her
Not
decision.
defending a lawsuit. It's a different spending of
That's
money
not true.
filing a lawsuit versus defending a lawsuit.
That's not quite true, but.
Okay,
So
you
are saying, no, I'm
When
still
you're-
talking.
There's a conflict of interest.
There's a hard conflict of interest
there's
here.
not.
You said there's monetary value, that makes it a conflict of interest.
Okay, so let me point out something to you. Is there a monetary value if we are insured by an insurance company? Is there a monetary value to all of us if we are being defended by the insurance company who is defending?
One is insurance.
Yes or no?
One is insurance.
Wait a minute. Is there monetary value to that?
I would think
The
so.
answer is
Yeah,
yes.
Same thing.
The
It's
answer
not
is
the
yes.
same
Not
thing.
this-
It is.
It is.
That's
It's the
insurance
same
is
thing
insurance.
if this
Voting
policy,
yourselves money because you're all
We're
of a
not
sudden
voting
find
money.
yourself in need of it is a totally different thing.
it's
It's a totally different thing. Asking
the
the
same
public to
thing
pick
if-
up the bill.
If
because
are you saying
realize
this is a
that
state statute that
168,
all municipal?
167.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I
we're
know.
allowed to approve
I
it,
recognize
right?
it the minute I saw
We're
it.
allowed to approve it. So anyone who approved this state statute
Then why do you
is
need
for their
a
own
policy?
gain, right? They took their own monetary gain
If
by
it's in the
approving it.
statute,
All the municipalities
if it's in the
that
statute,
approved
you
it,
don't need a
it's in the
policy.
statute.
Great, then you don't need a policy
the
for it.
difference between
Then
this
it's
and
not-
the
You could just make a
insurance policy.
request. I mean, you don't have to have a policy. I think it's good practice too. I recommend you adopt a policy. But any civil council member or anyone can make a request and you all can approve it
But this is a
Okay.
blanket cover everyone.
under certain circumstances.
No, if you
You have
read
to read
what
policy.
she
I read it.
read it. Yeah, read
The
it.
only thing, the one line that's missing is if they have not followed state statute. If you, which I thought was interesting as well.
It's covering everyone from now into the future forever. I mean, it should have been there. Covers our employees, it covers the council people, it covers, again, this is not like we made this up on our own, it came out of nowhere. This is, every municipality has it.
But for 18 years, we didn't have laws.
Because we didn't have a lawsuit. That our insurance didn't cover.
Exactly.
That our insurance didn't cover. Now we're
Exactly.
finding out that, hey, our insurance doesn't cover, and you're telling me you're gonna get people to run for office if they get sued and they make a decision and they get sued, that they're not gonna be covered?
Well,
They-
maybe
as
they
long as
should,
they come in eyes wide
pay
open.
attention to more information and ahead of time, and they wouldn't be in the situation.
And
Joe, when-
maybe we could have not been in a situation that you have us in
I'm
with
just saying,
2 lawsuits
That's
with
how
the
I
village.
felt. When I
That
was
simple.
involved, I gave 3 different warnings.
Well,
Joe-
you were defended, you had a monetary value because the village defended you because we had insurance. What we're saying, in cases where we don't have insurance, we all are indemnified, if you will.
But Joe, you were accused of, I forget what it was, some sort of harassment against Fresini,
Right.
and you had to defend yourself.
Well, no, we chose to, what I did is I told Fresenius, I'm going to give you a chance to walk this back because now you brought staff into this, which is accusing me of wrongdoing. So if she didn't walk that back, then I was going to ask for a full investigation on me, but make sure that everyone knew that that councilwoman started this complaint that was false. And even the staff came to me and said, I will sign an affidavit that you never did anything. What we did, and we chose, this is me and my wife, that's the first thing we did. We said, well, you know what? And even Kevin said it at the time. I cannot defend you as an individual. That's on you. If you did something wrong, kind of what she's talking, if I did something wrong, then I would have, this doesn't cover that. If I personally did something wrong to a staff member. So, what it does is it takes, we took the action to say, you know what, this could go anywhere. So I chose to seek out an attorney. And what he did is he helped me frame the letter better to send to Christina because that was public information. And that was my choice. But Kevin made it very clear, he couldn't defend me. The only reason he was working with us and talking to us is because she made a claim as a councilwoman that brought staff. No, Christina Fresini made a claim that that involved staff members, and that's where he had to step in. We took the direction on our own to protect my own good name, if you will, and all it was is in a letter. That's all that was. So if there was wrongdoing on my part, the village, she's not saying the village is to cover this. We're saying that for anything that, you know, any kind of lawsuit that the league is not going to cover through the insurance, we're saying that the village is going to take, that's the natural process. The village takes over, every municipality or most have them in place, and they take over and they basically indemnify council members. That's all it is.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution RS-2018-08-03 of relating to defense of village officers and employees.
All those in favor?
But I'd like to amend one paragraph in it if you're gonna pass it anyways.
We'll make the amendment first and we'll vote on that and then we'll vote for the
So, motion to amend paragraph C of the presented resolution to state, the officer or employee acts or fails to act except for emergencies, and this is already in there,
That's already, it's on
or the existence of extenuating circumstances directly contrary to instructions from a superior, directly contrary to the advice of the village administrator, village attorney, or directly contrary to village regulations and or policy, and or state laws. That's the change. And then it continues on, but that's the change, and or state laws. That's all.
I'm going to defer to council on that, to say, does it need to have that?
I don't think it needs to have that.
Okay. So we'll make a vote on that change then?
But I'd like to know why. Melanie, why don't you think it needs it?
Have you read all of the state laws in North Carolina? All of those chapters? If you do something and you were not aware of it and it violated, some rule that's been on the book that no one really knew about, then this doesn't cover you. Like, I don't think all council members are expected to
Do you run
know
into that a lot?
all state laws. I don't run into anything like Marvin handles a lot. You guys are the biggest anomaly in the state of North Carolina. No, But I do not
village
feel
attorney is supposed to
comfortable
advise
having
them,
that in here.
Right, isn't the village attorney supposed to advise you against state statutes and laws?
Yeah, but you guys do things on your own without consulting the village attorney, so I can't trust that my advice is gonna be followed. So
I haven't done anything because I don't
No,
have
I've
a
reached
village
out to you
attorney.
several times to try to
Not
get
before
your
May
advice.
31st, you didn't.
Sure I did.
No, you didn't.
There's been many topics that have come out.
Do we
that you have not-
Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't think you need that language in there.
Okay, so we'll vote on that change for language, vote to approve Robert's,
I made a motion.
okay. All's in favor of that change?
Aye,
No.
I'm sorry? what's
Mary?
this?
this change.
Oh, the change? Oh, yeah, aye.
No, and I'll be the tiebreaker and vote no on that. So we won't add
So I'll make
that.
a motion to adopt resolution RS-2018-03 of relating to defense of village officers and employees.
I still believe there's a conflict.
All
of
in
interest
favor?
And that you guys
Aye.
should recuse yourselves from
Aye.
voting.
And you
Does
voted
this
no.
apply to me too, then, this
yes.
this resolution?
Defense, not prosecution, defense.
No, I'm not talking about press.
Yeah, and there's a section that if it's adverse to the village, it doesn't cover you.
Just
Yeah.
curious.
All's in favor again?
Aye.
Aye.
Was my
Oh, my,
objection noted?
Yeah,
objective?
waiting.
Not nay.
Nay?
Barbie, did you note my objection? That I think there's a conflict of interest here? And those three, Nick, Ken, and Joe should not even be voting on it? To that matter, neither should Mary.
No.
All
But
four of
did
you.
my
you-
opinion.
Did you also notice that our village attorney has said that you didn't feel there was conflict? of interest?
No, because the statute allows you just, any member can request this.
But this is different. We're drafting a resolution, right?
Right, you're having a policy,
they
so it's a
can-
uniform standard, but even if you don't have the policy, one of them could come forward and say, hey, guys, I got sued with this, it's about village business, will you all cover it?
So instead of,
But I recommend you do the policy, I do not recommend you take
so
that
you're saying
approach.
there's zero conflict of interest for them, considering the fact that they have this backup, they could individually ask. But I don't see why we have to draft this if you're saying they
Because I
have that
think uniform
ability.
standards should apply, I think policies, it's always good to have policies and procedures in place.
We're
And
looking
uniform.
to the
Treat everyone
future.
fairly.
All of us.
Yeah.
But right now, with what's going on, it's a conflict.
No, it's not.
Okay, so there were 2 yays, 2 nays. Did I get that right, Robert and
I'm a
Mary?
nay.
Okay,
You're
and
a
I
nay.
will be,
I'm a nay.
yeah, I'm in favor of passing the resolution. So moving on.
Where are we now?
The C, discussion consideration of hiring outside legal counsel for Mayor Scoot versus Village of Marvin, 18 CVS-1853.
I kind of feel like I should recuse myself from this, but just can I ask a question? Not that I matter, I'm in the minority anyway, but can I ask a question about this first?
Yeah.
It's a general question?
Sure.
I'm gonna figure out what it is. Oh, didn't you already hire outside legal attorney?
Nope,
No, we just asked him to
consult.
and look into what needs to be done.
Who is he?
I have, the first page is fee schedules, the next page is from his website, and the last page is his biography, so you can read all about him.
Just so we're all on the same page, even though I made the motion on Mary's appointment, you know, we make motions all the time. I shouldn't be excluded from information. And so any communication you have with the village attorney, she should be communicating with me.
No, I represent the board, and I will talk to groups in majority. I'm not having
That's not
29 conversations.
That's not been your
with-
policy.
And the policy is not working well, because I end up having 4 or 5 different conversations. Have you talked to so-and-so recently? What'd you say to them? Have you talked to so-and-so? And I'm not a tape recorder, I'm here to provide legal advice.
I've only called you
If there's
4
a
times.
pressing legal issue, I will answer questions regarding legal issues, but not, what did you say to so-and-so? What did you say to so-and-so?
That's my legal right
only
to ask you
ethical
that.
obligation is to the board, and I will.
You're pointing at
Provide
them
my
when you say
legal
the board,
advice to
just
the
so
board,
we're
the
clear.
majority.
Yeah, you're
The
pointing at them.
majority,
So
exactly,
you're
that's what I
majority.
answer to.
Majority.
You
Majority.
answer to
Yes.
the majority.
Yeah, the
Only.
board consists of the majority.
Yes.
Yeah,
So you have no obligation to me.
I don't.
No,
I have
Zero.
no
or me.
ethical obligation to return my
Wait a
call,
second.
to tell you anything.
And this is
sure
a
don't.
question. The public pays for the services and resources that this council has. Why all of a sudden is it up to the majority to all of a sudden cut off the residents from the representation they're paying for? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The residents pay for your bills through us.
The residents elect
But you're
you all.
cutting two
And they
of
elect
us out.
us. And they elected the majority, and the majority feels one
And the
way,
majority
and it
said,
just.
we don't want to
Yeah,
touch.
so there would be a conflict if you're seriously
Interesting.
attached to her on the side, there would be a conflict of interest
I
if
don't
we
wanna go
were
or hear
planning
anything.
strategy, if we, how we handle this whole legal issue, and you're in there, there's a conflict, you'd have to recuse yourself because you're clearly on her side on a lot of these issues, and Mary would have to because she's the
Oh, I
one we're
would.
discussing, so
Well, I don't
by
have to
default.
recuse.
And we
So anything
we
we've ever
formed
voted
we
on?
formed the subcommittee that I have no idea what they've talked about and stuff. So they're doing what they're doing. What we're talking about now is looking at this potential person to address the issue at hand before us of outside legal counsel for the Village of Marvin regarding what was presented to all three of us.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to hire T.C. Morphus from the Bro Law Firm
Can
to.
we go over it for transparency's sake?
Sure,
Or are
let's
you just
go
going
for
right
it.
into your motion?
Well, I was gonna make the motion and then we can have further discussion.
How about we have discussion?
No, let's
first?
do the motion first. and then
Make a
discussion.
motion to
Make
hire
a
T.C.
motion.
Morphus from Bro Law Firm to defend all named defendants in 18-CVS-1853 with the assistance of the village attorney as co-counsel.
Oh, the Hornets.
Further discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it.
Okay.
So you all are willing to spend money, village money, to fight Mary's appointment? Because that's what you're doing, that's all the suit's about, is defending her.
That's not all the
legal-
suit's
That's not all the suits, but did you read it? I thought you got a
I
copy.
actually didn't read the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a lot. There's many more allegations in there.
Yeah, about illegal meetings and stuff like that, none of which had happened and stuff. No illegal meetings, sorry.
But you're willing to spend money to fight Mary
We have to.
as a council person?
We have
No,
to.
you don't.
We're just gonna give it up and allow her to just say, okay, whatever you said was all true.
That's what we have attorneys for. We've got two
Well,
attorneys. They
right,
negotiate
and
all
we
kinds
are
of
we are
things.
gonna have, you are filing a suit and we are taking the action we need to take. That's all we're doing here. You drew first blood, so we gotta.
Wrong. Say it again and I will say
Yeah.
it. You're wrong.
Okay, it's fine.
You did.
Assume that I'm wrong.
You did.
You can assume
You
all you want.
unlawfully vacated
Okay.
my seat.
So you're here now, and then you filed the lawsuit.
No,
Okay.
I
you
filed
the
it
lawsuit.
before.
Okay, but you're here now.
You put me back in.
But you're here
So
now
what
and
do
you're
you want me to do
participating.
now?
So I don't know.
Yes,
that
but you
filed.
decided then to
But
go
we
for-
we
I'm not
clearly
But you
said
then decided,
Okay.
you put me back in the seat to participate after I filed the lawsuit.
as a de facto.
And then, right,
because
and
we
then
don't
you
agree
made the
that-
motion, and then you made, right, and then you made the motion to say you were going forward with
Right,
pro warrantor,
right,
right? Okay, so I have to keep it out there in case I need to file mandamus
But this isn't
after.
for the pro
I don't know
warrant.
what's going to happen after.
This has nothing to do with co-op.
This is nothing to do with. So you know that, okay?
Yeah. No,
This
I know,
has to do with
I know what's going on.
what you presented us because there are so many things in the lawsuit accusing us of illegal meetings and God knows what
And you
else.
all have been served with discovery. There's requests for production of documents, interrogatories.
Right.
The same way you guys have filed, I guess, for quo warranto against my title, right? I'm assuming?
We'll see.
I guess we'll see, so we'll see how it works out. One comes the other comes the other.
Right. We'll see.
You're good with all this? You wanna go through all this?
We have no choice at this point.
You do have a choice. I've reached out to you a couple times, you haven't even responded. The reason I reached out to Ms. Cox initially.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that,
Tell
when you
her
bring,
what?
you bring that up, you reached out to me.
Uh-huh.
Again, when you and Ron were doing your planning and stuff to put Mary in, and you knew I was leaving and stuff.
I
you
didn't,
never reached
first off,
out.
I didn't know
Nobody-
you were
well,
leaving, you didn't announce it to me.
2 months ago,
God.
He didn't know.
everybody knew
He
it was
announced
on.
You knew it since
I
January.
didn't know.
No, I didn't know, he never announced you'd be gone that
Oh
long.
my God.
Everybody.
Now it's getting
All right,
crazy.
but anyway, so.
Go back, listen to the tape.
You never reached out to me at that point.
But
You
Nick,
did reach out to me though after we had the thing and you said, you texted me something about, I need you to, if you could just come over and say that you agree with Mary being on.
I asked you to support the appointment.
Well, but you didn't come to me before, you asked me after you did it already. You didn't come to me before and say, if they could do with Mary,
We were trying to get the budget passed in time, and I said, look, if you would
That was.
I tried to reason with
but
you.
Nick, did
come up
you
with
reach
that
out
in 4
to them
days.
before, again,
That email? Yeah, I did. I did.
No,
It took
I
me
mean,
3 hours to
But
type that
Nick,
email.
before you
Between
fired
20
me and did that, did you call them? Did you call them?
Did you
Before
call me
fired
when
me?
you fired the
We're not talking about,
administrator?
we're not talking about that.
No,
You're
but
talking
you're
about
saying-
talking about what you
You
want to
do the
talk
same
about.
thing.
You
I'm
brought
just
it up.
saying,
I'm just saying that
you guys have
you managed to
wrecked
reach
your
out to me
relationships.
about it after the
That's
fact.
very
After you already
sad.
did it, but you didn't think you could reach out to me before and say, we're thinking of this, blah, 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 whatever. You didn't, because you didn't think, you
Didn't think I
you
could
the
trust
answer.
you, is that the word you're
Oh,
reaching
whatever,
for?
trust me, you like the answer you were gonna get or whatever, but again, so no, I'm fine with this. I think this is where we need this.
All right. So we have a motion on the table?
Yep.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Oh, and they,
I thought you couldn't vote, but it doesn't matter.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot.
You
I
recused
recused
yourself
myself.
from- Recuse
Yeah,
yourself.
From all
yeah, sorry, I
discussion.
So it's a
forgot.
2-to-1 vote then.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have
Is this what our packets now?
Yeah, sure.
discussion and consideration
Yeah.
of I-485 express lanes.
Yeah, I just, there's a little cover sheet in there that talks about the 485 express lanes, and I just need to know if y'all want someone to come in to go over this in more detail. Honestly, if you watch the video that I sent, I can resend it, it pretty much sums it up. But if y'all want someone to come in, since we couldn't attend these public open houses on the July dates, we'll be more than glad to do so.
So just so you know, they're gonna do what
I know.
they wanna do regardless. We have very little say, we get outvoted through the,
They say that, but I've represented towns that have, come forward with resolutions opposing stuff, and, I mean, I think they want to work with you. I think if there's a solution to meet in the middle, I think they will, but maybe in this case, there's not.
in
Is
this
that your
case, I don't
experience,
see it.
Christina? Yeah.
And I think in the end, we have to play nice with them.
Right, they
With
wanna-
with the widening of 16, because if we want them to work with us in getting the rest of our roads done, those are the guys we're gonna be dealing with in the end. So,
I don't intend to have them come unless y'all want me to have somebody come.
I've been to the most recent one that was for, I think I attended as mayor, and there were other people, and they updated me, so I'm good on my end, so. Okay. Next up is State Treasurer Response Letter. This was mine, and I had planned to actually write a response letter to this. I had not gotten around to it. I received this letter. I think you may all have received it, something about, we're required to comply with the, passing a budget and all that kind of stuff, and it's their understanding that we didn't comply. So I think we need to respond to this, and I'm willing to put pen to paper. I hope to have something, a draft, but I will work on a draft for, if it's okay with you, I'll work on a draft on responding to them, since they obviously sent us a letter and copied all the people that they copied. So you all, it looks like, got this letter. Maybe you didn't.
No, I didn't get it.
Yeah. So if we can get a copy to Mary on that.
Why don't we push that to the 11th,
11.
September 11th instead of the
Okay, that's fine.
August 30th?
Okay. Gives me more time to write. But that's all I had for that. I just wanted to, I think we should formally respond to them, and that's all I was planning on doing.
Okay.
Next up, discussion and consideration is F, discussion and consideration of Bow Ordinance OR-2018-08-02. I talked to Christina a little bit about this. We had some concerns that we may need to table this or don't have enough information. Maybe
Melanie
fill
has
us
some
in.
suggestions that we need to look at, so she's gonna review it further, but I also had a recommendation from the sheriff to add language in there about a berm.
About what?
Berms,
About a berm?
putting
A
berms in.
berm when you're shooting arrows, so arrows don't go flying into the streets.
So if y'all want to add some language in there about berms, we can do so, but we just need further direction to see if we wanna add that in, because we're gonna have to look at heights, depths.
Like where are they going to put the berm?
I guess
All
behind whatever.
over the village?
No, if you have like a bow and arrow range in your backyard, have a berm behind it.
You may have to have a berm.
I got it.
So what was unclear to me, and is the 450 feet from all of those structures. Like say if you have a 10-acre lot, I can see someone being able to be 450 feet away from thing, but then you may start to encroach on a street like Wax on Marvin.
Right.
And if they don't have a berm in there, that could
I got
cause a
it. Okay.
potential
I
and
didn't-
stuff. So
sorry.
if it requires more language, I'm certainly open to listening to what that is, because it does, yeah, I think it's kind of smart. I mean, the problem with bow and arrow obviously is it doesn't, put down the kill right away. They can run for miles. So someone cannot have this ordinance in Weddington and that deer can come all the way over here and end up in Marvin. So
I was sharing with Christina actually, when this came around, what happened was that someone on one property had hired, I guess, people who will come in and get rid of deer.
Yep.
And so they hired someone in Providence Estates to shoot the deer, and yet, because there's no fences there, the wounded deer, poor
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
ran to the other yard where there were kids and grandkids playing, and this poor animal was on the other person's property, so it created a lot of, as you can imagine, trauma.
I know Weddington has a bow and arrow because I have a friend who actually shoots in his backyard. So
All right,
if
so
we
you
could-
guys need to work on it?
Do you also, do you want to require, it's up to y'all, whether or not they need to have a license from the Wildlife Hunting Commission?
Yes.
Well, here's the deal. To just target practice, you don't necessarily need a license. I don't need a license to target practice.
I would
on
go
my
down,
deer.
I agree with Joe, I would go down the path of licensing, that's an agency that we don't want to get mixed with.
And that's
Christina has
for,
something on this, just so you know.
Well, and that's a whole separate ordinance, because that's an urban archery ordinance where you allow hunting, and you've got a whole different parameter of regulations that you have to adhere to with that. And so if y'all add that language in, we're gonna have to look at a whole separate ordinance with urban archery.
My suggestion to Christina and to this council, I think we talked, it's been months, but we talked about it, was just to keep it simple and address the fact that we had no bow and arrow ordinance at all. So I had recommended a separate ordinance, but she had a better idea, and that was to make these definitions in the firearm ordinance, all of which makes sense to me. I understand Melanie's got to look at it.
Isn't that what we did though?
That's what she did.
Yeah, okay,
that's
I'm
what
sorry,
she
I just
did.
want to make sure.
Yeah,
I'm getting
I'm
tired.
sort of giving you the history. I thought we were going one direction, doesn't matter, she had a better direction, and she's got it here on
Oh, I see what
paper.
you're saying.
I'm cool with it, understanding the attorney's gotta look at it. Get into licensing, that worries me. Kids, they need to be taught safety with bow and arrow just as much as an adult does, and they're not out there getting licenses, so.
So if y'all do not want to add any language in there about berms, then we can make approval contingent upon the attorney's review.
But the one thing I did want to recommend is under D, a person discharging a firearm in self-defense of person or property. Federal regulations and state statute specifically controls what municipal ordinances can and cannot do. And one thing is you can't take away someone's ability to, do this in defense of property, not just person.
Where is it? I'm missing it.
Second page.
Under,
I see D,
I'm sorry, 13.03 exemptions. Under D,
a person discharging a firearm in self-defense.
it says self-defense, but I think you need to specifically, also property too, you can do it.
So with the change of
Oh, you're
person
saying
or
add
property.
Right,
property.
yeah, add property to it.
I don't see a problem with
Is that redundant, self-defense?
Yeah, you only need one self.
I will just say this on the burn issue, although I think it's a great idea. It's probably better to enact something and then maybe work on that,
That's fine.
because the idea of creating berms is pretty,
I would stay away from the burn thing. This is all about,
I like the idea, but.
like where I'm at, I can shoot in my yard, and I have. I've got 450 feet away from everything, but I don't do it routinely. I go to the range. But this has to do with people that are in, I don't know, Providence Estates. What's another big subdivision with big yards?
Providence,
Providence
Marvin
Estates.
Estates.
Marvin Estates, Providence Estates. And
Meadowlark
there's
to some extent,
some of these people are in a neighborhood,
yeah,
and some have a ton of land.
Robinwood.
And then some are right next to somebody's house, and they're just so used to being able to shoot a bow and arrow in the yard, they may forget they're next to a new house that was just built. And I think the idea behind this is to protect that person who just built their house. They no longer have 450 feet. They want to be protected. This just gives us consistency across the board.
So then.
So I'm
we
saying
can
no
just make
burn,
it- We
yeah.
can just make it, if everybody's okay with just making it, contingent upon attorney's review, but I think adding that language in there, and I just did wanna point out also the change, I'm not sure if you noticed on the exemptions where it says while occupied, we're striking that language, because that was existing, where you,
Which paragraph was
it's,
that?
That's right.
Where is it?
130.04.
Oh,
Well,
Which one?
Oh, this one. Oh.
well,
Any type of building.
Under the
while-
exemptions A4, she's just pointing out that while occupied is being removed.
I like that,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember seeing it before.
It shows
Christine, I
straight
really
through
like the
already.
new format.
Oh, it does?
But if
Okay.
it's gonna be changes in
Oh,
red,
wow,
we'll make
occupied,
sure,
okay.
Yeah,
because I can't tell what was,
Okay.
the changes are underlined.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll make them color.
no, I mean, underline is good, I know it says
So we
in
saying we don't
red.
have to table this, we're good with what we have?
If y'all are okay with not adding berms in there, which I'm okay with it.
I am
for now.
okay.
Well, Melanie wants to add something.
Well,
and
just
then-
of D, a person discharging a firearm self-defense of,
Take
you
out
know,
one
person or
self.
property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was D, right, D.
Okay.
So take out oneself, but add property.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Sure.
So make a motion that we accept the amendments to boat ordinance OR 2018-08-02 as amended in paragraph A, striking while occupied, and in paragraph D, adding and property.
And striking self,
So,
And striking which?
one of the redundant selves. It says in self.
self-defense, I would put in self-defense of person or property.
In self-defense of personal?
A person or property.
Of person or property. Okay, so amended my motion.
And we have I corrected the spelling error on bow and arum instead of bow and arrow.
Where's that?
Oh, bow and arrow.
The
First,
heading.
How about
right
I
at
do
the heading.
this? And including any minor grammatical errors which staff sees.
Okay. Further discussion, all's in favor? Motion passes.
Can I just mention something to Christina and Melanie? Hoping to get this in before the practicing for hunting season comes up, which is pretty much next month. So it's at all
I think it
possible.
starts
I
September
thought it was
1st.
just approved.
Which is next month.
I thought you had to look at it.
No, we just
We're
made
ready
it,
for
yeah,
Oh,
it's
good.
done.
Changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was unanimous, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
I need more than just, so I need somebody to second and y'all need to vote so I can record that on
Okay,
the
so she
ordinance.
made the motion,
Yeah, I've got that.
You need
So
someone to
who's-
second it?
Who's second?
I'll
I need a
second the
second.
okay?
We need a second now?
Well,
Yes.
it's based on what's on the ordinance.
Oh.
And so then approval of a vote, favor,
So
or,
We're
and
all in
against.
favor.
Motion.
Okay, all right, so it's
Passes
unanimous.
unanimously, yes.
Okay, just
Sorry,
needed
that's the way
to,
I format my ordinance. That's what I'm used to, so that's my fault.
I think they eliminated the second, even on planning board, we finally got rid of it.
All right,
Okay.
so,
What am I at? Electronic, G, discussion consideration of electronic voting policy, P-2018-08-01.
This is, again, this came up, it might have been that same February meeting, but it's come up a few times. We've had discussions about it. And I think it would just maybe removed one paragraph from the previous versions that have been before you. Before we had some language in there about, it doesn't count if it's in place of a tie, and we removed that.
Sorry, that was the last part again, it doesn't count in place of a.
There were some, let me find my old one, and I can tell you.
FYI, we had this in our planning board thing too, the remote participation.
Just because it was, you had 7 on that council and you couldn't get to a quorum.
Only, I think in the planning board version, we don't vote, we can't vote, the person who's voting isn't counted, but obviously this is trying to do that.
Yeah, we had language in the previous one. What is it? That stated if the person participating remotely, if their vote was necessary
Oh, right.
to
that's-
break a tie,
Yeah, that
then
was
you
the
wouldn't
word.
count it, but we got rid of that language.
Okay. Saying, so that it would be counted regardless is this objective, right?
Right.
Yes. So, and then obviously we don't want to get this to a point where nobody's showing up and we're all dialing in
Well, just so you know, we actually
on a
have,
hockey game.
I was gonna suggest with that, again, sorry, planning board one says that no more than 2 members, that might even wanna lessen that since it's only 5, that no more than 2 members can call in. Something to consider if you wanna put a cap on the number of people who can.
That probably makes sense because then we, no more than.
Well, it
Otherwise you
can't-
wouldn't have a
it can't be
quorum.
used- It can't be used to establish.
Yeah,
You have to
so
establish
that
a
would be
quorum.
redundant with 5.
That's right, it does say in the same place I'm in here.
Because you have to have a quorum.
So
Under paragraph
adhere
2.
to the 8-hour,
Oh, 5 members
no
present.
event shall be, notice be given less than 8 hours prior to the meeting. So, if you probably know you're gonna be out of town if you're gonna miss well in advance of the 8 hours unless, I don't know how that, if you're
So-
driving home or something.
The idea behind that, you just can't, I don't feel like going.
No,
Is that what it means?
no, it's really just to allow all of us to participate when we can. or
Wouldn't
have the
this
ability.
fix the whole charter thing?
No,
No?
because he's saying he wants to vote all, regardless of the matter. This is just saying whoever can vote could call in and vote.
Oh, I thought your reasoning, justification for the
No.
charter change was if you guys have the minority and you don't want us to change something.
Oh, that's true.
No, well, I mean, it still allows everyone to vote, and that's not always gonna be the case, where if you're on vacation in Europe, or she was just recently, she's not gonna be able to maybe participate, because of the time difference or whatever. So it basically protects a number of different ways. Me voting is one thing, this is another alternative to allow all of us to participate when we can. That's how I know we discussed it in the past, was it, did you say February?
I know.
We couldn't get the
I think
language
so,
right or something
yeah.
like that, so I don't know.
We
why.
discussed
We
this in
discussed-
February too. Was it
Yeah.
the retreat? I wasn't at the retreat.
No,
No,
it's not at the retreat.
no, it was meeting.
February was the only,
I know
the
a year or
retreat
so
was the
ago,
only
we
meeting in
talked about
February.
I know we brought
We
it up.
talked about it in March or April.
Maybe
It
that
just
was
never came to any,
To me, this fixes the changing the charter.
Kind of does,
yes.
Because that's what you.
yeah, it really doesn't. Because it really doesn't, because you don't always know if a person is going to be, you're assuming everyone who is not here will be able to vote
And call in.
and call in.
So I was in California visiting my 80-year-old mom for her surgery.
Right,
Last meeting I wasn't
Okay.
there, but I sat on my ass for hours waiting on her.
right.
I could have participated in the meeting remotely.
If
Yes,
we had
if this was
this
in
in
place.
place,
You
yes.
said that on the.
That's what we're saying. You're making my
You
point.
said that on the recording. How about your mother?
Oh. Oh,
I'm just kidding, sorry.
sorry.
It's getting late.
Hope your mom doesn't.
Filters off. So my only point was, during the charter discussion, I don't mean to rehash it, you said the justification was, if one of them are gone, you don't want us, the majority, let's assume we agree on every issue, sort of adding things. But if we have this, that's not gonna happen.
You're assuming that that person would be available to
Call in.
call in. With this, if we have this in place, we're making the assumption, and that's not always going to be the case. There will be times when Kim is in Greece, where she just was, and because of the time difference, even though she wants to vote, can't vote. Even though we have this rule, she won't be able to because she can't
In
either get
today's
through.
world
Couldn't
with
we just
international
try that
plans,
first?
instead of changing the charter, why don't we do this?
Well, we already passed the first resolution. This is something that is just, it's another layer to just allow us the
Wants to put
ability
like
to
a
vote. So.
fortress around.
Not really. You can say what you want, but that's not the case. That's not the intention of this. It's really to allow all of us to vote, participation to vote. So it's what it
All right.
is. So is there a motion on the table?
Sure. I make a motion to adopt, I guess, a P-2018-08-01 remote participation policy for meetings of Marvin Village Council.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there further discussion?
Um,
Did you have any more questions on this?
Not No, I'm fine
Um,
with it. To be honest, there were times when I was away at camp, like Canada, for a month and a half, and gave me the opportunity to call in and contribute, so.
The print may be getting smaller, my glasses are failing. If I'm in California with my mom and I want to participate in a meeting, do I have to be on the phone the entire time?
Yeah, pretty much some sort
Not
of.
really, because they will have established quorum where they are, right?
So if you guys have quorum, let's use me as an example,
Okay.
because I will be going out
Then
again.
if you leave and you're not excused, then it counts as a yes vote.
So if you have to leave the
Regardless on whether you
phone
agree.
and we don't excuse you, then it would be a yes vote going forward on any.
So if you want to
So-
check out, you just ask.
So I need to be there when we open the meeting, when Joe opens the meeting.
Not
No,
necessarily.
because they will have established quorum, they being those present.
Three of us will have to establish
Have to
quorum
establish
regardless. There will have to be three
That's the-
present.
But once I
Quorum here.
show up, once I call in,
Yeah.
Your
and
card.
you guys have me on speakerphone or whatever.
It's just like you're here.
Now I'm here, and then if I leave, I'm a yes vote.
Yes.
But if I don't call in at all.
Only if we don't
I'm
excuse you,
just
right?
Right.
absent.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
right.
And like-
So we don't, if we say, hey, my mom's, she needs me now, and boom, you have to hang up, and we get that, and it says, yeah, we're the excuse you and stuff, so you wouldn't be any part of
So
the
my
votes
vote
going
just
forward.
won't count.
Right, it's like you weren't there, yeah.
Yes.
You weren't there.
But you could have voted on everything up until that point, is what it's saying.
Because with a 3-hour time difference, it's a little weird.
It is weird, yeah.
Well, that's, again, it's just an option,
Yeah.
being away.
And the situation where you're on the phone, it's working, all of a sudden you lose a signal or something, you can't establish signal now, is that a?
But then that's a determination between the quorum that's here and says, you know what, we're not hearing him clearly and we can't hear, and then we just vote on,
That's a good
you know.
point, though.
But that allows, that's addressed in number 5.
Right.
Yeah, the council member
Yes.
participating
Yeah.
remotely must ensure that
So
he or
awesome.
she can be fully heard by the other members of council and the other individuals in attendance at the meeting. If the technology is not working or if the audio is not audible, the council may vote to disallow participation.
Right, but I'm saying,
Okay,
if you
so-
started off and you were
yeah.
working fine, and all of a sudden you, for some reason, that lost the signal, maybe you were driving, or you,
Shouldn't we at that point say that we automatically excuse that person if there's a technical difficulty and they're cut off for some reason?
I think that's
They
fair.
can't reestablish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If they can't, then they're automatically excused. I'm okay.
Right, I mean,
Is
you
that-
can,
Is that in here?
No, I just
well,
asked.
no, it's,
Well, it does, it
it
says
does
vote to
count how you
disallow
vote to disallow
participation.
participation. So you just have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
you know.
so you're disallowing participation.
Because it may
you
be that
don't go in as
in
any
a
vote.
minute and a half, the signal's back
And we're
there.
talking about transparency.
You're not a yes vote at that point.
Well, but if we're talking about transparency and everyone feeling secure, right? I think you'd feel nervous knowing that somehow if you're in Greece or if it's no fault of your own and you cut out, and we know driving, it's horrible. You would want that security, I think, to know that they're definitely gonna excuse you and not vote through all
And I think
kinds of
that's what
things
it
you have.
says.
Interest.
So they're gonna
I-
vote to disallow.
I'm
We
fine
can't
adding-
hear you, we're
I know,
gonna
but I'm
just,
fine adding that you will automatically be excused.
if connection is
If
lost.
connection is not
Yes.
reestablished.
I feel like it would make everyone feel more
I think
secure.
that's fine.
Right, within, do you want a certain period of time or?
Then they dial back in.
Within,
5-10 minutes.
I think you're excused until you get back in.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And if
there's
they
a
miss the vote, you
discussion
miss the
going
vote.
on,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. If you
You're
miss
just
the
not
vote, you miss the
participating
vote.
yet.
It's no different than if we didn't have the policy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Okay, so if technology is not working or if the audio is not audible, the council may vote to disallow participation. If,
Or
Hi-
automatically excuse, or will automatically excuse the remote member from further meeting proceedings or something like that.
If if the technology is not working or if the audio is not audible,
the council may vote to disallow participation, comma, or will automatically excuse the
Oh,
remote
sorry.
member from participating electronically.
yeah.
Yeah, that's clear and concise.
Is it?
I think so.
Can't see, I think I lost the things, I can't have it, I don't know where it is in front of me. I lost it somewhere.
Okay.
So are we,
So they either
Okay.
vote to disallow participation or
so Marvin, how would
automatically
that go
excuse.
down? Would we get like a speakerphone?
get a speakerphone, you can do Skype, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
do somebody's cell phone.
Boxes.
Yeah,
Well, we're all gonna have our village cell phones next week.
yeah, I mean, you can do the village cell phone. So that would, but you would have to establish, they'd open the meeting and establish quorum, and then, the clerk or the mayor or whoever can call the member, or the member can call in.
So I'm sort of picturing, I get a call, I gotta go, right? I'm in California.
Mhm,
I'm calling or emailing you and saying, hey, I had to leave.
mhm,
You know, before it didn't matter, if I wasn't here, I wasn't here.
right.
Now I'm calling saying, I gotta go. I'm gonna try and call them. But, you know, we didn't ever hear the phones ring when we're having a meeting.
Or we call Barbie.
Just call her.
Or
I'll tell you
call-
what I used to do when I worked for COG, because we had the same issue. And when the board members were able to participate electronically, this is the policy we used. When the chair opened the meeting, then we established quorum. At that time, I would dial the member. I'd also make sure ahead of time that the member was going to be on the phone. So I would tell that member, I will call you at, whatever time.
Just like a conference
you know,
call.
it's just like a conference
confirming.
call.
Yeah.
And so I would just
And then
dial in
present
and
it.
then put them in the phone call. I mean, it's just simple as that.
But then if you have to step away or something and you need to call back in, just call Barbie.
Right.
Yeah, and you can say that. You say, well, I need to step away. I will call back in the next 10 minutes or call me back.
And then-
You know.
Remember, when we did this on the planning board, we had one of the speaker phones here, and Paul just called a particular line, Capiello. I don't know, is that the same idea? So you don't really have to necessarily even call Barbie, you just call, how he has that line to
Yeah.
call in, and he was on speaker.
It just
I don't know.
depends on whether or not the
What you
line
have,
you're
but-
using is a direct line.
Right.
I guess whatever you figure out, I'm fine with. and I'm-
Well, it's
I'm fine with the policy.
whatever the council wants to establish. I mean, whatever audible device that we use, that's what we'll
But you're
use.
gonna have a village cell phone, right?
Mhm.
So I'm fine just calling you.
Well,
And then if you say.
And-
hey,
and
I
if
got
that's-
10%
and if that's
battery
the-
power,
yeah,
We can determine the protocol.
yeah, later on.
It's not
But
really-
but it'd be very easy, that we would establish the quorum and then we'd call you if you were away.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. All those
Are
in-
you okay with it?
Well, you have to notify 8 hours prior to the meeting that you're gonna do remote.
Yeah,
That you're-
if it's
you're gonna
before
remote.
8 hours, then it's an automatic. No,
and
is that
just
correct?
An
That's
email
how
to
it-
Barbie is sufficient?
Yeah, I would think that
Yeah,
would
she
be,
usually
that would
calls
be very
for a
good.
quorum, like, for a couple hours before the
Yeah.
calls for a
Do
quorum.
that.
So, but you should probably know if you're within 8
If,
hours. that You're
yeah,
not gonna be able to.
I mean, if it's an emergency, then I'm sure that would be understood. If it was an emergency and you had no choice but to go out to California without having to give that 8 hour, you just say, I'm sorry, but it was an
If it's
emergency.
that bad, I'm probably not calling.
Yeah, and yeah, so,
Okay.
Does that sound
Okay.
good? Did someone make a motion?
So, yeah, there's a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have, where am I at?
Okay.
Village Hall Trail.
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Consider amendments to Village Hall Trail.
So I'm just gonna be real quick, because I don't know a whole lot of detail. Laura was here to talk about it, but I can take it over.
Right, so-
I wasn't involved in the discussions with them, but basically, this week, Toll Brothers came in, they want to go ahead and construct the Village Hall Trail, basically from this cul-de-sac all the way down to this pink line here, up to their, preserve here. So this is where Village Hall property is in this area, they would only construct up to here. They want to do the construction themselves at their dome. There's a lot of contingencies, and that's pretty much it with that. There's a lot of contingencies that we have that we would place upon them in doing a separate agreement, but basically, they're ready to get it done because they feel that this is not being developed like it should because there's no connectivity to their main subdivision.
So will they do a little more of maybe meandering, or would they just do a straight line
think
like
we
they're
can kinda
doing?
tell
Because
them
we
to do
There's
thought
gonna be a new survey,
I
right?
think they were going to do
thought it was
whatever
gonna be a survey.
meandering would need to be done
Because we
in order
walked
to
it
make that
with
connection.
a gentleman before, I think some of you were with me, in the rain. We walked that whole path, and they did change it from, I think, one side to the other because of where the roundabout is. But that actual path does not look like it. It's intended to meander along the back of those properties along what ends up being right behind us. And I think we were quoted as much as close to 30,000?
It's 25 to 30.
Okay, so that saves
That's pretty
a
awesome.
good deal of money, and they're ready to go on that right away?
Oh, right, that's.
They're ready to start. like,
And they already
tomorrow.
talked to planning
Yeah.
To
board?
the parking.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, and PRG.
Somewhere in there.
And then Mary, my understanding is you said something about adding it to the final plat?
No, we
Was that-
actually, Mary and I talked this afternoon, and she had some good points about basically adding language into the plat to make sure it got done as a form of an agreement.
Make sure you
However,
got-
we sat down and we said, the plat and this project are kind of two separate things, so let's make some of the contingencies in a separate agreement. So,
What I don't want is the trail that they gave us over at,
No.
because that isn't a trail, that's a walking nightmare.
so we sent over basically what our, unless
Standards
anybody has
are?
questions. Yeah, and that, basically, let me just go over real quick, and so what I had kind of prepared is, when y'all make the motion, to make your motion contingent upon an agreement that includes these items, which I'll just go through them real fast. They're going to survey the property at their cost to ensure the trail is built within the current easement, and in the extent that it's not, they're basically, going to withdraw the easement at their expense. So we'll add that into the agreement for contingency. And then they would build the trail upon our specifications, which from my understanding is 4 foot wide, 2 feet on either side. Overhang would be an 8 foot clearance. That we would have staff, do you have questions?
No, sorry.
We would have staff approve the exact location of the trail, and then staff would approve prior to trail completion. We would take over ownership of the trail once it's done, once, it's completed, and we would own it, we would add it to our trail system and our maps, and that we would be responsible for upkeep.
Do we have anything on there about materials?
There is not.
It needs to be.
So that-
Oh, I'm
that-
sorry, crushed concrete.
Yeah.
It's that concrete, mashed
Crushed
up concrete that we
yes.
did over at Tullamore.
Okay.
So,
Not
you know what I
Tullamore.
was just thinking?
Preserve.
The agreement kind
Tullamore.
of does that, but just thinking the way normal final plots typically are, especially when you mention the ownership, because we're planning on taking that ownership. Usually then the easement is drawn on there as dedicated to the village. So that should still be on the final plat.
The easement. This easement, from what I understand,
Mm-hmm.
already exists,
Okay,
and I could be wrong. This easement does not exist, which we would have to obtain.
right, and then they want to make sure that that's labeled as, right, it's coming to the village, that part?
This
portion?
part, yes,
But-
that's,
Okay.
we're gonna have to put that in
So-
to an agreement.
So that has to be on the final plat, because it's an easement, just saying.
The only thing I would argue is there, like, at the front of the road, which is Marvin Road, there's a sidewalk to nowhere. Does it not make sense, instead of for them to go down to the cul-de-sac, is them to do it where that yellow line is all the way?
What he's saying is right here, there's currently a trail that meanders in their.
On both sides of
both
that
sides.
road, there's a meandering trail that goes to nowhere.
Like that.
And I'm looking at the yellow line, the straight line, because we talked about walking that and that being connected. So is that part of what they're doing, or is it just from the,
Just this.
okay, so we'd be responsible for, the access then becomes, see, that, there is
It's just a sidewalk.
there's sidewalks to
Sidewalk,
nowhere,
it kind of does one of these,
and it ends.
and then it ends. What Joe's saying is, while we're in negotiation, I think this is what you're saying, while we're talking to them, why can't they go, I know they're gonna do here.
Forget that.
Let's gonna go ahead and bring it to here. Just saying, forget this, connect this.
Right.
Or maybe they wanna do both.
Yeah, and I don't know, I wish
They
staff
want to
was
go
here
through the
to.
green space probably though, through the greenway plan comes at the end of the cul-de-sac though.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's where it goes right now.
I know there's a pocket park that's slated to be here. And whoever owns this, because this is, somebody's purchased this, they're really excited about that greenway and that pocket park.
Well, then maybe that'll be one of the things the PRG wants to extend, because it's a sidewalk to nowhere.
Well,
It looks-
even,
Yeah, but they're saying you can just walk down the street and hook
Right,
into it.
that is part of.
That's what people will do, is they'll walk,
Right.
they'll just walk on the pavement into it.
and we can talk to them about it, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're saving 25,000. So if worst case scenario, we go back and we do.
And we add a little bit.
Just, I would pose an open-ended question to them, the way Joe phrased it is, can you connect the two? So
See
is
what
that,
I'm
Here's the deal, if there's no houses there, now's the time to do it. If nobody's bought, because then they know what they got. If you go to try to put that in after they put the homes in, people are gonna be in, just kinda like, anytime they see something, they're gonna complain, oh, there's gonna be people in my backyard, but if it's already there, they know what
Which
they're
is,
buying.
by the way, the other argument for making sure that the easement is on there, so that when they go to look for their property and they see the plat, they can see that what's there and they can.
well, and that's what I wanted to come back to, is this is not a house?
Well, I mean, this plat was aside from that plat. So we would
Yes.
have to amend this one, whatever that is.
This
I
one
don't
would
even
get
know.
ended, but part of there's a history here, and Nick may remember this. We have at least one subdivision that decided they didn't want a trail, even though that's how it was sold to the village, and the idea was all village would get to use this trail, they just got rid of it. So what we don't want to see happen is this is just under ownership of the preserve,
Right.
because of eventually this is all
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's all connected for everybody.
Well, and that's one of the discussions we had, because they said they don't have to obtain easement for this because they currently own it. And I said, but we would want to have the easement.
Right. So, and it doesn't mean that it changes this route. We could still, I mean, you can still make that agreement, but I would almost add to that agreement that when everything is done and constructed, that they file a new plat laying out where the easements are and who owns what and who's responsible for what.
Okay, so I've got this language if somebody wants to.
I was just gonna say so moved.
Yeah, and I'll just say it and then you can.
Yeah, we'll just do it.
Can we, Christina, can you follow up with Toll Brothers about that
I
other
will.
section? I mean, not that needs to be in the motion, but just ask them.
Well, I mean, of the $30,000 we had allocated for it, it's probably $5,000.
I know, but if they'll do it.
Right.
We'll talk to
They
them.
can say it's no.
It's not a deal breaker for y'all if they don't, right?
Derek and Kim asked
Right.
Opie, or whoever it was, they would fix the trail, and they did it, just by asking, so that, you'd be surprised what they
Okay.
might do, especially if they're in a hurry. The only thing I'm not sure if you understood, because you just came in probably in the middle of it, was it's my understanding Parks and Greenways, and Chris, who was acting administrator, maybe Laura, had a surveyor out here figuring out, there's this blocky easement, but they were trying to work it out to where it's meandering. So there was actually money being paid.
We put that on hold when we found out. I mean, we just signed the contract, was it last week, Joe? Or,
Yep. Couple
and
days.
as soon as they hadn't been able to come out because of the rain, and so once we found this, we stopped it.
Okay.
So nothing's taken place yet.
But now was Toll willing to do the same sort of meandering thing?
As far as I know, I believe so.
Once they get back in there, because I walked it with that guy, we walked it, and there are common paths that would make sense where you don't have to get rid of bigger trees, and they should be able to do that with the easements that they have. That's what our trail guy said anyway.
They're gonna do it at the least expense.
And one of the conditions in there,
That's my
I think,
concern.
was that they were gonna bring it back to have staff approval, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so,
you can make sure that they have.
so I'll go through these contingencies, just so y'all are aware, and then you can make your motions depending on if you agree. Village of Marvin maintains ownership and controls maintenance of the trail upon completion. Village of Marvin can include the trail in its trail system map. Toll Brothers builds the trail to Village of Marvin specs, including what I've mentioned with the crushed concrete, the 4-foot wide, 2 foot on either side, and 8-foot overhead clearance. Toll Brothers shall have the easement surveyed at their cost to ensure they build within the easement or obtain a redrawn easement if it's located outside of the existing. And then your addition to file a new plat within the new easement once completed.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed renovations offered by Toll Brothers with the conditions listed in the meeting per the administrator, with the addition that once all improvements and construction are complete, then a new plat is filed delineating all the easements so dedicated, or appropriately dedicated.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Next up, we have
Review action items.
review action items. Barbie.
I have, find out what the process is with, Town of Weddington, went through to upfit the house as their town hall, and then get 2 other quotes on website company and research if branding company, does website design.
Okay. Anything else? I have one more thing. To sign that document, get it notarized. We'll do that tonight.
Sign deed.
Didn't forget you.
That's good.
Is there anything you need us to do as far as the phones, Marvin? The new phones?
The new phones?
We'll do that.
We'll do
We'll
that.
do that next week. I've got to get some forms.
Okay, I thought it was on tomorrow.
No, it'll be next week.
Okay, and thank you, staff, Barbie. Last is council comments. Barbara, you want to go first?
Oh, you didn't do L, what were you moved that to consent?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we moved that to
all right, so
consent,
you've already did
yes.
that, okay.
You just go around to the council comments and we'll start, Robert.
I'm good, I'm tapped. Thank you.
11:30.
Okay? Mary?
I should say something, I just don't know what. Thank you for letting me participate in the meeting. I think it's good sometimes to air things out and also focus on the merit of issues and discuss them. And I enjoyed that. So I enjoyed working with all of you, and it's productive and constructive. Thank you. And thank you to staff for doing an amazing job having to wrestle through all those agenda changes and reports. That was pretty huge feat. Good job.
That was one item on the agenda.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Thank you. Is that it? Okay, Nick?
Just thank staff for all the work they've been doing and keeping us up on things, and thank Melanie for her assistance on keeping us going here, and that's all I got.
Ditto to what Nick said. All
Okay.
good.
I got a couple things, as I always do. Thank you, staff, for a national night out. It was all of you that helped out and participated. If you can thank them on our behalf. It was actually well attended, and I actually had a chance to chat a little with our sheriff, Kathy, for a little bit, which I've always missed him, but I caught him this time. I was able to talk to him. But the staff did a great job of putting that whole thing together, and we had a lot of things. I think I talked to you already about clarifying the agreement we have with them. If you guys happen to be on this corner around the times when we have the officer, please timestamp. If you just make a note that you're there Monday at 5 o'clock. I've gone 3 times now. 3 times where the officer was sitting in the car and traffic was backed up, and we're paying for that. So that's a little frustrating. Where they just kind of want to go in and let the traffic do what it has. So that's not what we're paying them for. Christine, great job on the format. I love it. I think we talked about a few little changes when it comes to things, and I talked to Barbie about that a little bit. Glad to see roundabouts are moving forward. I got some pictures, latest pictures at National Night Out from Chris, who did videotape and stuff, and it looks like they're on track for the 20th to be finished, and then they start right in. You can already see, unfortunately, they've cleared out some big trees for the other ones, so that's going. One of the things I brought up at the meeting that I think Nick was at, if I'm not sure, is I was very clear to DOT to not allow the Provincetown South to take over those roads. They said, no, that's not even in play. So my understanding now, and this is for you, to help you if you get phone calls, is that they barricaded, and there's only one way in and one way out of Providence down south. So I approached one of the sheriff's officers, and he confirmed that the neighborhood officially owns. So what they're doing is, instead of, because they can't get the gates up soon enough, they just on their own
Providence
barricaded.
Downs.
Providence Downs.
Yeah.
Did I say something?
Providence Downs.
Providence Downs, I'm sorry,
That's all right.
my mistake, thank you for the
That's
correction. Anyways, they put their own barricades up, because I guess with and it's just gonna get worse, it'll be interesting when this one starts. But that's what that is. So they do own the road, so they apparently have the right to barricade them. But you'll be seeing gates going in there fairly soon, which is interesting.
Even though it's an easement, they can barricade them?
It's not an easement when you own it. It's just no longer owned by the state. So
Is
that's,
that the one that we had, we were talking about today? Okay.
so if you want, clarify when we talk to them about this issue, clarify that it is their road and stuff, because it
Yeah.
is, if it is, then,
The state abandoned it and gave
We had that
Okay.
issue come up today, and we got resolutions today, sent to some residents that were asking
Okay.
about it, so.
we're getting a lot of calls and people concerned about, can they do this and stuff, so they actually.
And I didn't mean to stop your momentum, I just ran into something with ours, a truck driver coming through, and I swearing at me a little bit, and I asked him to slow down, and Ed got involved. And he was told that 100% of my neighbors would have to non-trespass the guy.
Right.
Really?
And then finally, and just in habit, I took my daughter to a tryouts and stuff, and happened to talk to the coach, and the coach happens to live in Providence down south. And they would love to be a part of thing, and they said there's a big driving force of people who want to be a part of Marvin that live over there, and I explained the situation and also informed them. So maybe the communication we gotta get, help with the branding and all this, is that we get a message out that people can, or neighborhoods can volunteer. They didn't know that that's possible. I says we usually take them by blocks, but it's, as I talk to more and more people, they're open to it. They do know that they have some naysayers in that neighborhood, but I'd like to pursue some sort of branding or message in including those types of neighborhoods that really should be part of Marvin, because they're part of the donut hole right now. So with that, I thank you all for the long meeting and for hanging in there, and it doesn't look like we have much on the,
We have the whole PRG.
we have the PRG stuff, yeah, so we have some stuff to do. So anyway, thank you all, and I'll need a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Yeah, well, we're